Gina. Is that what you said?
Gina Hanna.
Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to What Do You Say? I'm your host, Frank Termini. If you like what we're doing, please, I always forget all these. You got to subscribe,
It's not there
hit
anymore.
like, and turn on your notifications so that we can update you whenever you get some new material. Today we have a return guest. We got Jessica Arbuckle.
Yep.
She's back again with us. We're doing an experiment with Jessica. Jessica's podcast went completely off. Over 500 views.
I beat
Oh, you beat Tony.
Tony.
Yeah, you
Yes.
beat him.
That's
And
all I cared about.
And so you're thinking of starting your own podcast. So we did yours. We did Kendra.
It comes out today.
Kendra will come out today. This one will come out next week. The other one we're doing will come out the following
We
week.
might have to flip the last two because Rob is doing a breakfast and he wanted it to come out before the breakfast.
I don't care.
Okay, I was just on.
That's easy. So, and clearly the theme right now with you, because in my opinion, what I think you should kind of gravitate toward is the sober sisters thing.
Yeah.
You know? And so we had Kendra's, which will share a common theme with Gina Hanna, who we have today. And then Gina's will also share the theme with Rob. What's Rob's last name?
Elsie.
Rob
Is
Elsie.
he the one with the daughter that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so
he
we're-
started a nonprofit then too, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the connection.
Yeah.
Where we
Yeah,
did
so
Kendra start a nonprofit, or was hers?
No.
Okay.
so we'll have some common themes here for the next couple weeks. But Gina, thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks for
Yay.
having me. I'm excited.
So are you originally from Kansas City?
I grew up in Grandview.
Grandview.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bulldog. I'm a bulldog. Yep.
All right.
I did go to school for a minute in Paseo. So at Paseo when it was a magnet school, and it was.
I
just
remember that right on 47th. Isn't it
Well,
right on 47th? of
It
Paseo?
is on like 47th and Paseo, but the year I was there, they were redoing that building, so we actually met at 19th and Switzer right over here. I got off on the exit. I'm like, oh,
And
I went
didn't
to school
it
here
turn
for a
into
year
a
and a half.
performing arts school?
That's what
Yes.
it was when I went there. I am a little dramatic, so.
Got it. So here,
Yeah.
I've always wondered what did that
What
entail?
was that like? It was probably the best year and a half of
It's
school.
like High School Musical.
It was like, I always said it was like Grease. Well, back in my
Yeah.
day, it was like Grease, but we
Yeah.
didn't dance on the tables at lunch.
Okay.
That's what I would always say. But we didn't learn a lot of science or anything else. But we did have fun. It was because it was the first year of it. So it was just freshmen the first year that I was there. So we didn't have any other like upper class to deal with. And then we became the upper class the next year. But I took a cab to school
Oh, wow.
for a minute, and then I was on a little short bus with the rest of the people from Grandview that were dramatic, and we smoked cigarettes on the bus and a good time. I mean, I don't know, it was fun. It was a fun year and a half. I didn't learn a lot, but
Fun fact, I've never smoked a cigarette.
you're
Really?
so different.
Here, you know what's funny? When we
Just
was
saying.
kids, me
And
and
you
my
drank
brother,
alcohol. That's pretty impressive.
me and my brother, my dad caught us smoking cigarettes,
Oh.
and he made us smoke the whole pack.
My dad, same with
he's
my
one of
dad.
those. Did it work for you? Did
I
you never smoke again?
hate cigarettes.
Yeah.
I guess it does
Hate
work.
them. Hate the way they smell. I don't like going to the casinos because you come home smelling like
Oh,
them.
yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate cigarettes.
Yeah.
I like the smell of cigars.
Here, I don't. No.
Have
I
you
smell
smoked a
weed.
cigar?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, me too.
I do. I like the smell of weed. I don't
I've
like.
also never smoked weed.
I
That
don't.
is so impressive.
I
Well,
don't
it's not impressive. It's just
like-
alcohol was my choice.
I mean, I guess it's still kind of impressive. I mean, there would be people that would be impressed with you. I'm one.
I don't
Thanks.
like the way weed makes me feel, but I don't mind people smoking it around me because I like the smell of marijuana.
I tried gummies for my anxiety.
Oh, no, it's
recently.
terrible.
Oh my gosh, it made my anxiety like
100 times worse.
100 times
It
worse.
I would've told you
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I didn't
There's
know. I
yeah.
should've called
Was
you.
it one that was
It was
made?
a hybrid.
It was made to make
No, if
you
it's
less
got a
anxious.
sativa in it
if
at all,
it's any
you're-
sativa,
you're not
gonna
gonna
be
like it.
anxious. Unless you're ADD, which then it mellows you out.
No, if
Okay,
it's,
well,
I would
anyways,
never. I would
It
have
didn't
told
work
you
out
take,
for me.
If you're gonna do it, I'd have said take about 2 milligrams of an indica.
Yeah.
And
And
then-
then you'll fall asleep.
Yeah.
You'll be
Oh,
so
well,
relaxed.
I don't
with
want to fall
it.
asleep. Anyways, didn't do it. Didn't work out.
No, I don't
I'm
enjoy.
good.
I don't enjoy
Yeah.
marijuana at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so smoking cigarettes on the bus.
Oh yeah, we spoke.
Did you
cigarettes on the
graduate
bus.
there?
No, I stayed for a year and a half. That was the first time I ever experienced losing a friend. I had my best friend was this guy named Chris. We rode the bus together. I had a huge crush on him. We'd kiss and make out on the bus, but he always liked all my friends and dated them, so I was that girl. But he he they would smoke. I never smoked weed in high school. I was like the good girl that hung out with the underdogs, which I still hang out with the same kind of people. Some of them ended up in prison. And so he played Russian roulette when they were getting high one night and
No
lost.
fucking way.
And
Is
so,
that where you put like the bullet in the gun?
You put a bullet in like a 6-shooter and spin it.
Yeah, I was not there because I never hung out with them when they would get high. Like I was around weed one time in high school, which is crazy because I ended up going to prison for selling a quarter bag of it to an undercover cop. But I was never.
A quarter bag of weed?
Uh-huh. Isn't that crazy? First time in
You
trouble.
couldn't have done a whole lot of time for that.
4 months. Enough to.
You did 4 months for a quarter ounce of weed.
I know, it's a good story.
That had to be back in the 90s.
98 in Maryville, Missouri.
Let's
have a whole
just go
story.
to that story. Let's just hop there.
Okay.
That other story is super sad. I have never grasped the concept of putting a bullet in a gun and let's just try to shoot
But
someone.
wait a second. Think about this. Think about this for a second. How close were you?
To me and that guy?
Yeah.
We were besties.
You were besties. So there's definitely some trauma there.
Oh, do you want to hear about my, or do you want to hear, you like talking trauma?
Well, because here
I was like, I could have a whole show.
I know the story, right? I know where you ended up.
But it wasn't from that trauma.
You may not.
Yeah, but I know where you're going.
But I mean, my thing is if you look at trauma, I know one thing, anytime there's trauma, there is a lie injected into it that somebody is going to actually live as truth if you're not spiritually discerned enough. And then once you live it as truth, then alcoholism and drug abuse, depression, anxiety, all these different things can seep in. So that wasn't your first trauma. There's something else.
So sorry. I do have this whole
I
thing.
didn't mean, but I'm trying to.
I'm so excited. I mean, what you just said there was what I had to learn on my journey. But I'm third generation full-time ministry ministers, let's just say. There's a whole story behind that too. Just how you can change generations, all based off of lies and truth. And so the whole thing I had to learn on my journey, which we'll talk about, is exactly that. So I now, end of story, run a recovery center. And I say the whole thing is we have to recover truth about your identity.
So when at our church, the Rock of KC,
yeah, you guys support us.
there's a class called Discover Freedom.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And I took the class,
Yeah.
and the main takeaway that I got is trauma, lie.
How long is the class?
You should take it.
I know. I was just sitting
3
there.
days.
It's 3
Oh,
days.
really?
Unbelievable.
Do
Friday,
you
Saturday,
want to know what it
Sunday.
is? It's Oaks of Righteousness.
Oh, I did Oaks.
It's Oaks of Righteousness on steroids. So it's
Oh.
very tiny, like a little inoculation
Oh, I
of
don't
it,
know.
but enough.
I don't know that I can go back to that.
But
Oaks
honey,
was like,
have you arrived? This is the thing.
None of us have arrived.
Right? So we always have the next layer. I used to call it an onion. I've decided to start calling it a flower because it's so beautiful when we get to the next layer.
Yeah.
It's not, but you
It
do have to
is.
go to the stinky stuff.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that I learned, and it took me, oh my God, I bet it took still 5 years and another trauma to happen to me for me to figure out what the lie was.
They're so deep rooted.
It was so deep rooted that I had no idea what it was. So, a little bit about me. I know the audience has probably heard this 100 times, but I lost a 5-year-old to a brain tumor.
Okay.
Okay. And initially, I just covered it all up, right? Whether it was work, school, drugs, women, you name it. All the above. Did everything to excess. And then you fast forward 21 years. Now, the whole time, I remember when my son died, you would hear, Frank, I don't know why God took Andrew. When we were in the service, God took Andrew. And it may have came from a priest at the time because it was Catholic. God took Andrew. This kept getting, God took Andrew. God took Andrew. God took Andrew. And so then you fast forward 21 years, my stepdaughter, who I had the privilege of helping raise for 12 years, she passes from fentanyl. And so now I revert back to God took Andrew, God took Nina. You follow me? Mm-hmm. And finally, and I'd already taken Discover Freedom. So I know there's a lie. I know it. I can't figure out what it is. I know there's a lie from Andrew. I know there's a lie from Nina. What I didn't realize, it was the same lie.
So the lie being God took Andrew.
God took Nina. God took Andrew. God took Nina. Same lie.
That God takes them from us.
And I'm sitting there with Pastor Philip, and I said, and I'm talking. I'm good friends with him, and I'm talking to him like, how the fuck does this happen twice?
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm aggravated. How the fuck does God take 2 kids? And he stopped me. And I'm telling you what, when someone lifts it off you, it's like a freaking boulder getting lifted off of your chest. And he goes, stop right there. He said, stop. He said, God does not take anyone. He said, Amen. God receives everyone. He said, cancer took Andrew, drugs took Nina. God received both of them. And when he said that,
thank you,
and
Lord,
that was
truth.
Lifted off.
Isn't truth freeing?
I mean, the truth, the statement, the truth will set you free is unreal.
From the Bible, by the way.
But I mean, people who haven't like really experienced
right?
it, and that's why sometimes trauma and suffering can be a gift a little bit, in a way.
Every one of it, all good things come from the Lord, and the Bible says there is anything that the enemy meant for harm, God's going to use for good.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That was I would advise everyone to take Discover Freedom.
Or Oaks of Righteousness, either one.
Yeah.
Or call me.
Here, I know the Cardellos, Tony, Mike, and
very good
Dominique took Oaks of Righteousness, and they
it's
raved
all
about
the same. It's all the same stuff. But you need someone to teach you how
Frank
to take
took
stuff
Oaks
through the
of
cross.
Righteousness and raved about it. He had no idea because he was raised Catholic. And I think that's also the stigma. He was raised Catholic, he's Italian, and he's a guy. So check 3 boxes of, and it took, I pretty much drug him, kicking and screaming like, hey, you need to go to this class. And he loved it.
Can I give you guys an example of how it changes something? Or just a story?
Sure.
I did not mean to cut that off. Keep
No,
going
go ahead.
before, because I am bad about that.
I want you to do it.
Okay, I want to give you an example. So, sorry, let me scratch myself inappropriately on the camera and get arranged here. My husband and I took Oaks. We'll hear my story at some point, but Oaks of Righteousness was the class that, the Lord had told me 10 years prior. I was getting high after going to prison, and I'm like, what? I go to prison. I can't put this down. And he's like, you will eventually figure out how to find freedom. And when you do, you'll take it into prisons and you'll teach others. 10 years later, after many affairs, and really that was my drug of choice, was men, more than
I didn't
anything.
know that.
I know. I didn't share it because I didn't forgive myself. I had taken Oaks. It took me 7 years to forgive. So you were married while
you did this?
No, I was. When I took Oaks of Righteousness, my divorce was final in January from my first husband, who was still a meth addict. We both went to prison.
Is he still currently a meth addict?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And then a week later, I got engaged to my forever husband, who we ended up taking Oaks. Then 3 months later, because the Lord said, now it's time. Because I was still struggling couldn't put weed down, and I definitely wanted to do this ministry God had put on my heart, and weed was illegal. I was going to be doing all the.
When did the promiscuity stop?
When I got healing, really. The promiscuity didn't stop when I met my husband, who I'm married to now, because we started having sex right away, and we both were in church and knew better. But
were you still having sex with multiple partners?
Not by that point. That really stopped. My final one was, that stopped with the final one. This is the one I finally shared in church 7 years after going through Oaks. I finally forgave myself and realized this was my bottom. I had an affair with one of my closest friends' fiance that lived with her. And that was not who I was. Yeah. I had never been that person. I'm not that person today. I was this person that went to prison too. So I've always been a Pollyanna, glass half full or overflowing kind of person. And I had become a person that would do that. That's why I say, marijuana didn't destroy my life. That made me someone I was never going to be.
Did she find out?
I told her the day before she went to Thanksgiving with her fiance after his brother had committed suicide just a couple months before. I'm so selfishly involved in myself and wanted to get out of my shame.
So he had gone through trauma too. So he was in a bad place.
All of
you
us.
were in a bad place.
You guys, when you say trauma, the trauma is We have an enemy that wants to steal, kill, and destroy, and he's going to start lying to us from the day that we come out of the womb.
I meant he was currently in a really bad place.
Well, it was a very confusing time of life for all
so what
of
happened
us.
to them? Did they?
Oh, yeah, they're not together.
Okay.
Yeah, but they made it through that. I mean, for a little bit. Anyway, all that to say, that was my bottom. That's what I needed to get set free from. Ask your question. Get us
When
back
did the
on track.
marijuana start?
The marijuana didn't start until I got to college.
Started smoking marijuana, and that's the only thing you did?
Do you know the first time I smoked marijuana
He obviously doesn't because he doesn't know you.
I'm going to tell you. First time I smoked marijuana, because I'm a Christian girl. I grew up in church. I'm starting to have sex when I'm 14.
Oh, Jesus, don't say that to me.
I know, right?
He has one. How old is she?
And I
13.
was in a good Christian home, and my parents were awesome. What the enemy did to me, my dad traveled a lot for work because he was a missionary kid. So he went to 24 different schools by the time he graduated high school. So he's like, I'm going to keep my kid in the same school, my kids, same school. They get to have lifelong friends. So to do that, he had to have a job that he traveled all the time. So he's on the road.
So the dad's out of the home.
Dad's out of home. Dad's
We've
not
talked
there.
about that.
Dad's not there. Mom's got her own issues. I didn't realize my mom was having affairs. Come to find out, affairs are a generational curse in my family.
Any sin.
I did not
All
know that
sins.
because my parents did not talk to us about their sin. Well, I thought they were perfect Christian parents. I found out from people that take oaths of righteousness, and my mom was now teaching it, and she's telling about all these affairs that she had. We were driving down I-70. I have a lot
Is
of
your
stories.
mom still alive?
She is totally aware of this story.
Okay.
And I will share it on a podcast because I love her enough to know that
Okay.
she's redeemed.
Okay.
We are driving down I-70, going to the prison, because at this point, I am all over the place, but eventually I have a program in the prison. We're driving down I-70, and we're going to help these women break their soul ties. We learn about that in
Yeah.
our classes, right?
So soul ties, let me just...
soul ties is when you have sex outside of marriage, right?
You have sex outside of marriage, and there is a tie to that individual, even if it's just a one-night stand.
And I'm going to tell you
Yes,
something.
Even if it's a rape.
If someone says
Or
that's not
molested.
true, they are lying to themselves.
I have to tell you, for me, I can't recognize it. I was incredibly promiscuous. From the time I had a baby at 16.
Okay.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize
my
that.
first son was born, I was 16. He died when I was 21. And then I didn't have a girlfriend from the time I was 16 until the time I was
You've
about
lost 3 children?
2.
Oh, that was the first. And
Yeah.
then, okay.
And
okay.
so
I see. I gotcha.
So, and the second one was step, but either way.
It's your child.
So, from the time I was 16 until I was 24, I dated a girl when I was 24 years old, just for a couple years, on and off. But that's all I did was have sex. That's it. I was.
Maybe it's because you did it so much, you already put that in the back of your
I
head.
was
Let me tell
so emotionally unavailable. I don't recognize a soul tie.
It doesn't matter though, because you break them and there is just something that happens. So if soul tie just happens on a spiritual level, you're not necessarily going to even.
I also think it can happen even if you don't have sex with them.
Oh yeah, it totally.
Because,
can. It can happen with inappropriate authorities.
Yes.
It can happen with your parents. You have an abusive parent who constantly has a
Emotional
record in your
relationships.
head still,
Yeah.
and they could be dead and they still have an inappropriate authority because you have created an emotional soul tie
Yeah,
to
so
them
soul tie
and
isn't
given
just
them
sexual.
an authority. But the Bible talks clearly that when we have sex, it's a spiritual experience. It's a spiritual experience. And our souls become one, become one. So it doesn't matter who you have sex with. That's just what happens on a spiritual level, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, or whether you feel it or not. So if we go break those things off, we've let go of anything else on that spiritual realm that may have been tied to that person's soul that is now affecting. It's just good to do. So the rest of my story real fast, because I will get off track. Because
Well, hold on. I'm going to add to your soul
Okay.
ties. Louis Giglio does a...
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
He's unbelievable.
he's
But-
unbelievable. And
Yes. So in my 20s,
He wrote a book called Goliath Must Fall. You should listen
definitely
to
want-
it. Oh,
okay.
it's really good.
so he, in my
Listen to what I
20s,
do.
we would go to Atlanta. I lived in Nashville for a year. We'd go to Atlanta to Sunday nights and see him drive from Nashville to Atlanta just to see him on Sunday nights for their
Every
youth.
night?
Every Sunday night. Yeah. It's like 2 hours, I
What a
think, 3 hours.
blessing
I
you
can't
got.
remember. Anyways, there was a group of us that went, but he did myreallybaddate.com. And thankfully, I got to see him do it live. And it's on a DVD. I still have the DVD. I'm sure you can YouTube it. It's like probably really grainy, but it is I will make my daughter watch it. And he brings out all these suitcases in one of them. And he's bringing out, how much baggage do you have? And then he like names the suitcases.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so visual to me. And then the second part of it was he talked about DVDs. He goes, the people that you have sex with, just think of them as a DVD and you're going to put them on the shelf. And people you have emotional relationship, soul ties with, you put them on the shelf. And then you see them out in public. And that DVD just starts playing in your brain of the night you had sex or the emotional relationship, whether it's a good one or a bad one you had with that person.
That's right.
I'm like sitting there like, oh my gosh.
Oh, then I don't have any soul ties. I ran into my ex-girlfriend I don't know how many times. I don't
You
even
still
think
have a
nothing of it.
soul tie. Well,
you
you don't
could
have
have
to
broke it.
recognize it. But I mean, you broke it, you're saying.
Yeah, because it was like, I didn't.
But did you even go through the process of breaking them spiritually? I mean, it's good to just do.
I think it just, I never went through the process of breaking them
Yeah.
spiritually. I never did, but I will tell you that I ran into her one night. I was
Yeah.
with my wife, and here, I'll be very honest with you. It's tough for me to go out and not run into someone that I've had sex with.
Not me. I just would like everyone to know, not me.
So,
My first wedding, I had sex with 3 of the groomsmen at some
No
point.
way.
So I get it.
yeah, I mean, it's
Okay,
it's
you guys
tough
are
for-
making me sound like a prude.
Well, we were looking for love in all the wrong place.
Like my wife will ask me, "How do you know her? Did you fuck her?"
I know, my husband asked me the same. He
Do
wants
you
to know, but he
answer the
doesn't wanna
question?
know.
I'll never lie to her.
Oh,
I don't care. I'll never lie to her.
I will not lie, but I hate saying yes.
Yeah.
That's such a different experience for men and women.
It is.
I
It
will
is.
say mine, like, oh my gosh, I hope my mom doesn't watch this one. I am way far away from you guys. I am over here like the Holy Spirit got me and was like, you don't have sex before you're married. You don't, all these things. And I was at church on Sunday.
I was that girl too. That's why I was beating myself up. I was praying, Lord,
At
if I do die,
14?
and just in case, I don't want to go to hell.
At 14?
Oh my gosh. It was
The first time I had sex, I was 12, and so was the girl.
Oh
Is that
my
sickening?
God.
That's sickening.
I am not judging.
No,
That's
I mean,
just crazy.
No,
first
it
time I
physically
started
makes me
kissing-
ill thinking about it.
The
Okay,
first time
can I
I
ask you a
started
question?
kissing and experimenting, I was probably 5 or 6.
I was a freshman before I kissed a boy.
I'm talking about kissing
Maybe
other
the
girls
summer-
at like slumber parties.
Oh.
Did you not do that?
No, I mean, I don't think so.
Oh, I don't know. That probably happens. So, and that's where it comes from. It's this like looking for
Where can I ask you a
connection.
question? And we'll get back to you. I promise. Where were your mom and dads? And I'm not
We
blaming
were
them.
out. We weren't even at home.
At 12.
Yeah.
because you came
Out
from a
to-
good Christian
well, I
home
guess
too,
it's-
didn't
yeah.
you?
Huh?
You came from a good
My
Christian home.
dad was a devout Catholic. So was my mom. My dad.
Like you
went
did it in the home. Like they talked about Jesus
very,
all the time.
very much. Very,
like everything.
very
Your
much.
life was surrounded by it.
I was fortunate. I came from my
Same.
mother and father were
Same.
together until my dad died. My
Same.
dad was at
Same.
home. He
They're
wasn't a
still
guy
alive.
that was out running around. My dad
well,
was at home
my
every night.
parents were running around, but I didn't know.
No, my
Your
dad
parents
was.
were having affairs?
Would you let me finish the story eventually?
Yeah,
I will
go.
tell
Let's
you.
do it.
So here, let's so we need to get to that, and then we need to get to your addiction, and then we need to get to you
Recovery.
recovery. All right.
Okay, go.
Go on.
This
Sorry.
is good. So this is going to be like a 5-episode podcast,
Right.
apparently, with the 3 of us. The story with my mother, and then we'll get to the other. We're driving down I-70.
Oh, yeah, that's the story.
This is fast forward, right? This is fast forward. This was probably 2016. I'm trying to think of who was in the car. 2016, 2017. I started my ministry in
Oh.
2009, right? We started the program into the prison in 2011. We've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
We're driving down talking about soul ties, and so one of the gals in the car says, yeah, such and such is embarrassed about doing soul ties at church because they think everyone's going to judge them. And I was like, disclaimer, my parents were virgins when they got married, right?
Okay.
Virgins, the Holy Spirit, they had
I
the
think that whole
most-
generation was.
they had a Holy Spirit experience. The first night they met, the Holy Spirit fell on them. They were
Yeah.
baptized in the Holy Spirit. Everything charismatic happened. And the Lord told them, you guys are going to be married. So they knew they were going to be married.
I think that's an awesome story. I love when that happens.
It's-
That did not happen for me.
And so, start having sex at 14. Who relates to me? Nobody, I don't think. 40-something years old, driving down I-70.
Is your mom in the car?
My mom's in the car. I'm driving. My mom's driving. I don't know. I feel like I was right not next to her. No, she was
Who's
right
on
here.
first?
I'm driving. She's sitting right next to me, and I say something about, well, I know it's embarrassing, but my page was like 2.5 pages long, front and back.
Oh,
every
soul
line
ties.
of soul ties. Shut up. Don't judge. That was when I could remember the names. But my mom says, yeah, mine too. My mom was a virgin when she got married. I was
Some
like,
of them could have been emotional.
no, I said, I thought you were a virgin when you got married. She said, I was. Tears just start going down my face. Every time I had an affair, and I tell you guys, I'm struggling, they were so loving and caring, but they never once said, we get it. They never judged
I think
me.
it's that generation. I went through something similar, which I'm not going to share just for privacy, but I went through a similar situation where it was like, why didn't you tell me?
Well, I knew my sister had. I knew my aunt had. I knew I had.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did my mother never do this? Well, she had.
Okay,
And that's
so-
when I was like, oh, this was a generational sin.
There's generational curses.
This was a
Yes.
generational
There's-
sin.
it's in the Bible.
I
It's
could
in
see
the Bible.
generational curses
We
in
should've
my
brought a Bible.
family.
Yeah.
And the generational curse in
Well, you have a phone.
the generational curse in my family is worry and anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
That's
Yeah.
because
Can we have a laundry list of generational
Yeah, you
curses?
can.
Do you know
I
what
mean,
I want to do? This is why I want to have a podcast someday. Is I want to walk people through. Just you can break these. So let me tell you this other story real fast because I said I wanted to give you an example. So my story, lots of sex, right? So Dirk and I start dating, and this is before we had done. We hadn't done any kind of ministry yet. So we are just dating. We're not even, I'm still married. Technically my first marriage, but I am not having an affair. I'm very much separated. So we're just laying on the bed, fully clothed, not, snuggling. And he's behind me and he asked me how many people I've had sex with. Why do you guys want to know that? I don't know. But guys want to know that for some reason. And I'm like,
My husband never asked me.
Wow.
And it was both ways. I don't think that's
I
not
didn't
a
want to know either.
No, I don't think that's a
don't wanna
conversation
know.
that anyone
Should
it is
ever
not
ask,
your
but
business
some
how many
people do.
people I had sex with, and it is not your business, and I don't think it should be asked because then it becomes, oh, did you sleep with them? Oh, well, did you sleep?
Why do they ask? But they do, don't they? They ask.
No, mine didn't.
Well,
And
sometimes. Have you ever
thank
been
you,
with someone,
Jesus.
or have you ever heard of that? People ask. Anyway, he asked. I lie.
What was your number you lied about?
I said 16 because I knew that sounded really bad, but it wasn't the truth. And so I immediately feel judgment. I mean, I just feel it. I was thinking, oh God, glad we got that over with. So fast forward, we go through Oaks, we get married. I get a chance to give my testimony because now I'm sober, and that's the whole part of Oaks. What Oaks did for me is it gave me the answers of what I'm supposed to do in a prison ministry now because I've been dreaming about it for 10 years and couldn't figure it out. And that's the base of everything I do. It comes out of that class. And so I'm giving my testimony, and I start talking about being promiscuous. And Dirk is so excited about me giving my testimony. He's my biggest fan. So he's like, practice for me. So I'm like, I'm practicing, and I talk about the part where I'm getting promiscuous, and I can just feel his judgment. And guys can, or at least my husband, can vibe across the room. He didn't have to say one thing. He didn't even have to change his look in his
Was
face.
he not promiscuous?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. He was. But it's not what you think. So this is not what you think. So I tell him, you are not
I'm
coming.
glad you're over there.
I mean, right? But I mean, he gets it.
I'm
He
just
gets
coming
it.
from a man standpoint.
I mean, you get it, right?
Right.
Really?
But you're
Let's
gonna,
hypothetically say I cheated on my wife. Be very hypothetical.
Yeah.
And then she cheated on me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, well, I did it to her. I'd be like, fuck you, I'm done.
right? And it's double standard.
It's
but
it's
this
not
is
saying
not
it's
even.
right, but
this
it's
is
what
not
I mean.
even
Can we
what
talk
you
about how
think it is.
naive I
But let
feel?
me get to the root of it. Let me tell you the root of it because it's not what everyone thinks it is. I've told this story. This is part of my teaching that I do on vows because this is tied to a vow.
Are you and him married at this time?
We are now married, and I'm giving my testimony.
Okay.
I have a son with him, and I'm giving my testimony for the first time. And I say, "You're not coming." This is on Tuesday. I'm practicing. You're not coming Friday. You go talk to Gary Heese. He's the one who put Oaks of
Oh,
Righteousness
I
together.
love Gary Heese.
He's the founder of Oaks of Righteousness.
He
and
counseled Frank and I for a long time.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
So I say, "You go talk to Gary. You're not coming." And Dirk's like, "I have been this way for 40 years of my life. I don't know why it matters to me, but it's always mattered. It ain't gonna change in one counseling session." Well, you ain't come unless you try. So go talk to him. So he comes back and he's like, yeah, that was interesting. So this is how it went down. Gary said, tell me what's happening. This is what happened. My wife shares about her past.
Ick.
Ugh. I get mad. It makes me angry and I make sure she feels
Well,
it.
it's his ego.
No, it's not that. Wait.
It
You
wasn't?
think. You think.
Okay.
Watch. Gary says, tell me about how it makes you feel. I feel angry. I feel ashamed. I feel slimed on. I feel I mean, angry, ashamed, slammed on. That's not your ego, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
And he said, well, what do you believe in that moment? He's like, well, one, I believe I have a right to judge her. I believe what she does affects me, what she's done, and what, her life affects my life. And he's like, okay. And he goes through whatever else he believed. And he said, do you remember the first time you felt that way? And he's like, no. He said, I do know that because he married a virgin the first time. So he was married for 10 years, but his wife was a virgin.
Was he a virgin?
No.
Okay.
But she led him to the Lord.
But it doesn't matter.
But she led him to the Lord and then immediately said, we'll never pray together. And within 10 years renounced her faith. So weird. Their marriage was weird. But she was a virgin. So that went away. And then when he got out of that, he went buck wild and had sex with everyone at his job, pretty much. And it came back.
I love that you're sharing all of this on a podcast.
Well, I mean, if we can't be
If you're
honest.
going to do it, do
Yeah.
it. Go big or go
I'm
home.
I said I
authentic.
love it. I love that you're sharing
so
your.
important to me. It's
I
so important
love
to
that you're
me.
sharing your heart on here. Keep going.
So anyway, all that to say, he tells that to Gary. He's like, it came back out of nowhere. I thought it was gone, but it's back, and I don't know why. He said, well, let's ask the Holy Spirit if he could show you where this came from. And he said, Lord, you loved Dirk. He wants to set free. His wife can't handle it. I'm sure that's what he prayed. Holy Spirit, show her where it came from, or show him where it came from. And he said immediately he could see in his mind's eye, immediately he saw the magazine he was looking at. He was 10 years old. His dad was in the hospital, was not coming out. His dad died when he was 10. Abandonment issues, trauma.
Yeah.
He's a helicopter husband. Let me tell you, he just stopped that after 17 years.
I mean, there could be worse things. Mine's opposite.
no,
Like, I could be
God,
gone for 3 days, and my mom might call my husband and be like, where's Jessica? He's like, I don't know. She went on a walk 3 days ago. I haven't found her yet.
Oh my
I'm not
gosh.
joking. I am not joking.
It is an extreme on both sides,
Yes.
let me tell you. So he said, I looking at that, when my mom is telling me, honey, Dad's dying. I've fallen in love with one of Dad's best friends. I know he's married, and we're in a small town, York, Nebraska, but I'm going out tonight on a date, and I've got to move on, and we may end up together, and it's going to be okay. And you'll probably hear all about it. 10-year-old boy going, I'm never going to let a woman shame me like this.
Yeah.
I'm so mad.
That's
right
what
now.
it is. It's right, it came from that.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm telling you, there's
sure.
the trauma, right? So there's the lie.
Well, the way he responded to the promiscuity is from that. Right. Other men may respond differently.
There's a reason for
Yeah.
all of it. So if we can get to the root of it. So Gary's like, so do you think maybe 10-year-old Dirk made a vow, I'll never let a woman shame me again? Mm-hmm. And he's like, I know I did. I mean, he didn't remember. Only 10-year-old Dirk didn't make that vow out loud.
Yeah.
But subconsciously. And so he's like, okay, let's just break it. So they prayed, and he had to forgive his mom for telling him something so inappropriate, for shaming the family, for defaming her marriage, all the things he had to forgive her for, and relinquish my right to not have my mother tell me the things that were so inappropriate, because she did that all the time. And Lord, I break the vow. In the name of Jesus, I break the vow that I'll never let a woman shame me. And Lord, I'm going to walk in your will in this area of my life. And forgive me for judging my mom. Forgive me for judging my wife and every woman I've judged. And I break any judgment I brought upon myself. I mean, these are the things you do in your prayer time.
Have you ever
right?
heard of Lori Rose?
Uh-uh.
Lori Rose does. She's big in Discover Freedom.
Yeah.
And there are pressure points in your body.
Oh, yeah.
Clavicles.
You're talking about, what's it called? Yes, but keep going.
I can't think of the name of it.
It's another form of healing.
look it
that's
up.
very-
But it
when you do the,
she does all kinds of that stuff. But
I'm like,
I can't think of what it's
Hashtag
called.
God.
I'm gonna have to
It's
Google
not
her.
Reiki,
I'm looking
but
it up.
it's,
You keep going.
But
but
anyway,
yeah.
she
Veronica Meeks does it as well.
she and it all stems from Oaks of Righteousness
Yeah.
and Discover Freedom.
I know, they all came
and
out of the same-
figuring out
Where the trauma
where the
lies.
trauma is, because so many people have these issues and don't know where it's coming from, and some of them don't even realize they feel like shit.
And so my husband leaves that time, right? He comes home and he's like, yeah, babe, I don't know. It may have done something. It was weird. We prayed through it. Didn't feel like anything, but da-da-da. I get my testimony on Friday. He goes. He's so proud of me. He's in the lobby afterwards, and Gary comes up to him, and he's like, how'd it go? And he's like, man, she was amazing. I mean, I did out him without permission. I did tell everyone that my husband did cocaine in the 80s, and he will kill me for saying that right now, too, because I did not get permission. However,
I can't find it.
I say that because I'm not the only screwed up one in the marriage. But anyway, he was like, yeah, totally. She did great. She totally outed me, but it was awesome. And he's like, no, how did you do? And he's like, oh my gosh, it's gone. He's like, I didn't even think about it. And he's like, that's the healing power. And it has not been an issue once since. There was one time he decided to choose to try to be jealous. And I was like, what are you doing right now? We broke that a long time ago. He's like, you're right. I was just trying to be mad at you. I was like, so dumb.
I mean, he definitely married up. So there's that.
Well, she's
All
gorgeous,
guys,
but
most of us are playing above the rim. So I know I certainly am.
He's awesome. I mean, God put us together for a reason. But now we do marriage conferences, and our whole thing in our marriage conference, well, we've done one, but we're doing many, so hire us, is to teach people how to fight in their marriage for each other, together, on a spiritual battle, so that you can identify, who are you really fighting? You're right, he wasn't fighting me. He was fighting his mom. So he needed to get that healed so that we could have a better marriage.
You ever heard of Bob and Audrey Miser?
Yes, they have told us we're on the exact same thing they're on. We had lunch with them, and they said, you guys need to get marriage conferences going because we do it the same way. Yeah, they're so awesome.
Every time I hear that story,
I mean, what?
I'm like, I simultaneously, I respect him, but I simultaneously like, no fucking way could I do it.
I need to know the story.
Bob, and I guess we could tell it. They share it to everyone. So Audrey Meisner has an affair behind Bob's back.
And we're talking, they're on like, her family's on like, not TBN. Is it TBN?
They're huge in ministry.
They're people know.
Yeah,
and she has an affair with someone on her worship team, I think. Like
yes.
Worship pastor.
And it was a young guy, I think. I think it was a younger guy.
Gets pregnant.
She gets pregnant.
One time.
Has
or
the
a
baby.
few times.
Has the baby.
Interracial marriage. So the baby's going to be different than everybody else.
And he not only forgives her, but names the child after him.
Okay, so I have a friend that happened to, literally in this city, and they are raising this baby together.
Well, let's talk to them.
I mean, I'd like to get Bob and Audrey Meisner.
We
on
can.
here.
They're
I'm
amazing.
just
You
not
could
gonna
totally
throw
get
them
Bob and Audrey. They're so awesome.
Are they local?
No, they're out of Arizona. But Dirk had them. Excuse me. The last marriage conference that we did. At Vineyard, that Dirk was over there, because Dirk and I used to be pastors at Vineyard. We just came off staff there.
Oh, you did?
Uh-huh.
See, we haven't caught up. Yeah. I've known her for years, but we obviously haven't caught up.
No, Dirk.
There was something going on with something happened with the head pastor over there.
Yeah,
he's a good person in my life.
He's an amazing man.
He is the reason we do our ministry.
I pass no judgment. I know think you do. People in their shoes are going to get attacked way more than someone who ain't doing shit.
And also, it was handled very improperly.
Well,
we learned a lot through it. Let's just say that. I was on staff when it was going on.
Here, the Catholic Church did the same thing to Father Rogers.
Yeah.
I mean, that poor guy. I mean,
drug him through the mud.
Yeah. But you know what they'd have done if it was with a young kid? They'd have swept it under the damn rug.
Yeah.
Well, I will just say that we learned so much on how to do things right and how to do things wrong.
And he's doing great now. So, I mean,
him.
he's doing great.
And he is the only I would not be who I was if he did not start a church that was a hospital that you could be authentic. And I loved
all the ministries there.
Yeah. I mean, we would not be who
so, okay, so can we we
wouldn't even be married if he didn't have that.
Can we go back to Maryville?
Okay.
All right, so Maryville, you're smoking weed.
Maryville, I start smoking weed my second year.
Okay.
First year, I'm an RA. No, I wasn't an RA. Well, no. Did I become an RA? Oh, I got hired to be an RA. First year, I drank. I tried drinking because I really hadn't drank. And I mean, I really did. I was a good girl. So I start drinking. I throw up. I hate drinking. It was terrible. That summer, I go to the Cornerstone Music Festival, which is a Christian music festival. My brother-in-law, my sister had already got married, was in a band called Dig Jesus, which was a Christian band, and they were playing at Cornerstone. I go there. Their booth is right next to the guy carving crosses, so he's cute. So I start flirting with him, and by that night, we were smoking weed and having sex in his tent. So that was
Christian
a good
festival?
Don't judge.
That's awesome.
That was the first time I smoked.
Where?
That's fucking
I
awesome.
just want to know where I've been. I think my parents just kept me lock and key.
I didn't know that we had
It's almost
sex
as good as finding like a hot nun or something. That's great.
I mean,
Okay.
So that was the first time I smoked weed. Came home from that. smoked weed like the next week, or with the guy, a coworker at Sun. So by the time I go back to college, I now smoke weed.
Okay.
Don't have a problem with it. I enjoyed it. There's no place in that town that's not a bar. My parents are Christians. I talk that my dad happened to have money at this time in life. He's now a pastor at a church in Vandalia, which is where the prison is. Let me tell you, going to prison changed my entire family's life. But at the time, he had a good job in the corporate world, and he was making a lot of money. So I talked him into opening a coffee shop, the Leaded Bean Coffee House. It was back in 1990, 5, 6. My crime happened in 96. They didn't put warrants out until 98. So this would have been 1996.
What was the crime?
Sold
Selling a
drugs,
quarterback. And let me tell you, this time, okay.
Did you sell out of the coffee shop?
No.
Okay.
But the
He
town
didn't arrest you right there?
No, it was election year 2 years later. They had a whole sting around that whole county. So they put like 36 warrants out 2 years later. 2 years later.
2 years? I would think.
I didn't even live in Maryville. I had a baby outside of wedlock. I was very much the black sheep with my atheist ex-husband, who was
a meth addict.
He became a meth addict. I didn't know he was doing meth in our marriage until towards the end. But he, at the time, wasn't doing meth because this is what they do. Let me tell you the behind the scenes. The town hates us. 2 people start a coffee shop in the same summer. My parents opened one. We opened one. The Leaded Bean, the coolest coffee shop ever. We had open mic nights. My parents wanted to have Christian open mic nights and be the only place in town that wasn't a bar. I wanted to have friends, and I've always been a gatherer of people. So we would smoke weed in the basement, but I had never sold weed out of the coffee shop. My ex-husband worked at Olive Garden in Kansas City, so he'd come down here and get a quarter pound and then go back up there. And then I knew all the people. He was so
since
quiet.
I've never smoked weed, can you show me how much a quarter pound of weed would be?
Like this. In a bag.
Serious? Like that much?
That's a quarter ounce. Quarter pound.
Oh, no, a quarter pound? I'm sorry.
It's
like
a
quarter
stinkier.
pounder?
Yeah,
It's
a
just
quarter
a little
pound is
stinkier.
it'll be like that.
It's just about a little stinky.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, it's like, whatever. It's a quarter pound.
Okay.
Like you think
You
of
sold a
pound.
quarter ounce, though.
I sold a quarter ounce, but he
Oh,
would go
how
down
much is a
and-
quarter ounce?
Quarter ounce is 2 fingers. Figure 2 fingers across a little
That's what you
Ziploc
got
bag.
arrested for?
Yeah.
And the time I sold it, so let me tell you, I didn't even know how to sell drugs. My ex would sell. I would have, so this one time, this is the stupidest story, but I wonder if this didn't have a part to, I mean, no, this is just a stupid story. I did not know how to sell drugs. We had this band from Kansas City that came up called Mop. I loved them. And they came up to play. This was in the early 90s, right? And they're all dreaded out and stuff. They're just fun. So afterwards, they come to our apartment afterwards. I'm like thinking, I'm the cool girl who's going to hook everyone up. So I literally get all my weed out in a big scale. I just start, like I'm the boss.
Right.
Start selling out. And they're looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So anyway, yeah, that's the kind of drug dealer I was. Well, this one time they came over. This guy shows up and gets to know us. He's a confidential informant. That means he's been in trouble.
Yeah.
And
He's snitching on you to get
out of trouble.
Right.
He's a meth addict.
Did you know that?
No,
Okay.
he went to high school with a guy that we were really good friends with. That guy, Wes, said, I can't even remember the undercover cop or the confidential informant's name anymore, but we hated him for a long time. We remembered it for a long time. Anyway, he befriended us. His friend Wes that he went to high school said, had you told me, I would have told you no, don't trust him. Like, I wasn't friends with him. I happened to go to high school with him. So he had that connection. He knew we knew Wes.
Yeah.
So he comes over, he hangs out with us. He brings this guy, Russ, whose real name is Scott, apparently, over a few different times. We smoke with them. He simulated smoking weed with us. And then he came over that time looking for some. I had just been at the coffee shop. It was dry everywhere. I'd been at the coffee shop. This guy had come in and said, hey, I just made a run to Kansas City if you know anyone looking. I had just got the knowledge. I mean, if this wasn't God, just got the knowledge. Go 2 blocks to my apartment. Russ and the confidential informant come over. They have a tiny little cassette. This is before, digital cassette player in their pocket. My ex-husband's super quiet. Like, as much as I'm loud, he is an introvert, like super quiet. And I mean, he's a mumbler. You can't barely hear him talk. So whatever he says, you don't get, but you certainly hear me go, I can get you some. So I take his money, go get it, because I have this knowledge, right? I just got it. And so that was my time of selling to the undercover cop. That fast forward 2 years later, first time ever in trouble.
Did you get a felony charge for that?
I ended up getting an SIS. So I walked 5 years probation. Everyone, so this had everything to do with the coffee shop, and it was so political. They hated us because the other county got shut down. So they had said we brought the drug problem to Maryville. That confidential informant tried to get Dwayne to buy meth from him, but Dwayne didn't do meth at the time. And he's like, dude, that's not my thing. He tried to beat him up because he wouldn't buy it from him. That should have been
Entrapment.
a clue.
Yeah.
That would have been entrapment. Everything went wrong with it. So 2 years later, I have a kiddo, Guylan, my son Guylan. I had gotten pregnant probably on this weekend. That was a terrible weekend for Dwayne and I anyway. And we should have ended our relationship. But that's probably when I got pregnant. So, but God had a plan, right?
Yeah.
Guylan's amazing. And so, fast forward, get pregnant. We stay together. My mom tells Dwayne, you should make her an honest woman because my grandma's really upset that I have a baby out of wedlock. And so we get married, or we get engaged. We get engaged. We get the invitations to our wedding. He picked up the invitations to our wedding that night, got pulled over for going through a yellow light. Who gets pulled over for going through a yellow light? And he got arrested because he had a felony warrant out for his arrest. So they take him to Maryville. He calls. He's in Maryville. Come pick me up. My mom and I go to pick him up. We're driving out of Maryville. We're at a red light. They come and knock on my window and said, hey, what's your name? I'm just like, Gina Bowman at the time. Or no, Gina Giese, because I wasn't married yet. And they said, we have a felony warrant out for your arrest. I'm like, well, I breastfeed my son, so how are you going to do this? You know, like.
They don't care.
No, they were like, well, they didn't know what to do. They're like, just follow us. Or no, can you get in our car and they can follow us with the baby? So I'm a ornery 22-year-old mom who's now pissed off that I'm getting arrested for something
Were
I
you
don't know.
still selling weed at that time?
Mm-mm. I was still smoking weed, but I was not selling it. Mm-mm. I stopped. It was just a little season of life. But when we went to court, it just happened today. Our court date happened 5 days after our wedding date, and
They took you to jail.
they took him right away. Everyone that went before us, everyone. We knew people there. There were people I hadn't seen since college, and they had sold to this guy too. 2 years probation, 2 years probation, 2 years probation. We were the last ones on the docket. Dwayne goes first. We're giving you 5 years probation, and you have to go to prison for a 120 drug treatment. I didn't even know what 120 drug treatment.
Is that 120 days in a drug treatment?
Yeah, so that's inside the prison.
Right.
They took him right away. You have to stand over here. I go up. 5 years probation, 120 prison drug treatment. But you have until Monday to turn yourself in so you can figure out what to do with your son. And I got to walk my son over. You literally heard a gasp in that courtroom because no one else got that sentence. But the moment he said it, I knew the voice of God. My parents taught me. I was raised in a charismatic home. I had this really intimate relationship with Jesus since I was 5. My dad said that's always been the gift I've taught them. I heard God say this is for a reason.
Yeah.
And so got out of prison, went to prison. That was an experience in itself. Orange was my new black. On my way to prison, we got to eat. I went to jail first for a week. Then you get to experience everything that comes with. Have you ever been to jail?
No.
You haven't. I didn't. I know you haven't.
No.
No, my brother has. He was in he was in the county for 60 days.
He was?
60 days county. 60 days county. I would take 4 months in prison over 60 days
he
county.
He stole a physician's prescription pad and was writing himself scripts of Oxycontin.
So he had a drug addiction.
Well, they let him out of jail contingent that he went to rehab.
Yeah.
Oh.
So where did he go to rehab?
St. Joe, Missouri.
Did he go to rehab in prison?
No.
Oh.
They let him out. 30 days he went back in front of the judge and told the judge to put him back in rehab.
What rehab was it?
Someplace up in St. Joe. He missed Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Was it Christian?
No.
Oh. Well, the state
shithole.
The state rehab is in St. Joe, but that's a prison deal.
Well, then maybe that's where he was at.
I bet that's what it was.
Maybe that's where he was at.
That's where my ex went.
He was in the county in Kansas because that's where he would write himself a prescription at a pharmacy in Missouri.
Then it was a Kansas charge then, though.
Yes.
Oh, so yeah, it wouldn't have been the Missouri State Prison.
Okay, so you get out of prison.
Get out of prison. 6 months later, we're smoking weed again.
Oh.
I'm in treatment because you have to go to aftercare treatment now. I mean, after at
Who
this,
took your baby?
my parents.
Okay, so your parents take your baby. You
Yeah.
get out. Do you get your baby
They
back?
came every weekend. They drove every weekend to Vandalia. So Vandalia is where the prison is, 3.5 hours away. I had never heard of Vandalia.
Yeah.
My final meal on my way there, the Maryville cop was like, "We'll give you one meal in Boonville." We dropped someone off at the state. I'm in an orange jumpsuit, literally shackles on my feet and my hands shackled to my waist, walking into this Kentucky Fried Chicken in Boonville, Missouri.
Wow.
With this
I
other
would have been
gal.
like, just take me because I'm not eating Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Of course you would be.
No.
I love you.
I don't like it either.
I know, it was terrible, but for a final meal, this
I don't
little
eat
old
fast
lady, she just stopped and she said, "I'll be praying for you." And I said,
Oh.
"Please do." I was like, I was so scared.
Oh, I guarantee it.
I was
Yeah,
so scared.
I
So
guarantee it.
If
Yeah.
you were scared, I can't imagine what I would go through.
I was scared. I was just like, you go. I mean, I did not have a background in any of this. I had
Yeah.
no, I
You
did
weren't
not
a
have
drug
family.
dealer. You
I
sold
wasn't a
drugs.
drug dealer. I wasn't
Crazy.
even a drug addict, really. I mean,
Did you
that's
just
what
sell
I
to him
finally
the
have.
one time?
Huh?
Do you only sell to him one time?
To him, yes. Now my ex had a couple times, but the thing
not
is, they
you.
didn't even have the right address. Like they had an address. It was so stupid. All of it was
But
stupid.
God wants you to go to prison
We
because
spent $10,000 to go to prison because he had a plan. So,
So you get out?
So 6 months afterwards, I'm back in my smoking weed and going. And Dwayne didn't find Jesus. I thought Dwayne's going to find Jesus. We're going to both find Jesus. I want to have a Christ-centered home. I have a baby. I want my family to be like the one I grew up in. And we are so far off track right now because I'm sitting in prison. This does not look like what I thought. And so 6 months later, we're back at it, and I'm smoking weed, talking to God, and he gives me a vision. I could see, like, in my mind's eye, so to speak, like I could see it I was excited. We were going to have a wing of the prison. It was going to be a lot like what I'd done in treatment, and I didn't know what we were going to be doing in it. I honestly thought it was going to be more like Paseo. I thought it was going to be like a performing arts program. So for the next 10 years, I'm like, I'm going back to prison and we're going to figure out how to get people set free. I knew I was going to figure out how to get people set free and I was going to go back. That's what the Lord told me. So for the next 10 years, I'm telling everyone, I'm going back to prison. I'm going to do a program. It's going to be amazing. And it's illegal, so I can't do both. And so it took 10 years before I found Oaks of Righteousness at Vineyard, and that's when I took that class and got set free and knew I had to go back to prison.
What was the X factor that drove you to smoke marijuana? Or was it just simply curiosity?
I think it was the hot dude that was saying it was okay and God made it and it was good. I mean, we had a whole conversation about it. It was at a Christian place. I mean, it was confusing at that time because my brother-in-law was in a band and he was saying, you know, at that time in California, even the Christian labels and stuff were getting people high. And so there was a confusion of like, does it really matter? Is it bad? It was just a curiosity.
You can make the argument even now, clearly now that it's legal.
But yeah, so there was a confusion with it. That's what caused me to do that. But when I tell you my issue was men more than anything, because when I went to prison, that's really what I learned. It wasn't really about what I learned in prison was one about codependency. And I met all these women who were amazing and had amazing abilities and skills and talents and who honestly were all uniquely, perfectly, wonderfully made and didn't have a darn chance from the beginning. And you hear their stories. They didn't come from they didn't smoke weed for the first time at a Christian open mic night.
Here, think about how hard it is to stay on track when you have the nuclear family and you have guidance and you have
And someone teaches you.
Right.
and it's still hard to stay on track.
Right.
Imagine when you don't have that.
Yeah.
It's got to be such a hopeless feeling, you know? So, because I look at, you know, me and my brother and sister, and we all gave my parents a fit in different ways,
Yeah.
you know? And they're here, my parents are in church every weekend. My dad showing us how to be a husband, showing us how to be a father. My mom showing us how to be a wife. Showing you,
Yeah.
not just telling you, but actually living it out. Like my dad never drank. I remember my dad taking a sip of beer one time with Mexican food. He bought a 6-pack. He took a sip of the beer, didn't even finish it, and that damn beer sat in our refrigerator for a year probably before my mom finally threw it out.
Wow.
I mean,
That's the example they gave. See, my parents hid it. Once we were old enough, I mean, they do it after 8 o'clock at night. To me, that wasn't good either.
My parents didn't drink. I was the first one to bring alcohol into our house. And
Yeah.
they made sure that I knew that. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you brought alcohol into our house.
Yeah.
But I will say this about it. Like, so we look at our parents and they're going to church and they're doing the right thing. And we see that. But that's not always life. So I think that's where, like, we get off track. And the Holy Spirit's like, hey, remember, I'm here. And then you go back to that.
Because you never lose the Holy Spirit. That's what
You
I learned.
never
through all
lose
of
the
this.
Holy Spirit.
I had the Holy Spirit the
Yes.
whole time.
I
I
did
had
too.
the lie that I
We've
had
talked
lost
about
my
that, yeah.
salvation. I had the lie that I
No.
lost my salvation.
I never
so
had
when
that
I
lie.
just felt when I was in prison, I thought this is going to save me. I'm finally going to get my salvation back because we're going to get Jesus back. I thought I had lost him the whole time.
No.
But
No,
I never did.
felt that way.
I mean, I always had a personal relationship. I
But
knew he
these
loved
stories
me,
wouldn't
but I didn't
be
know if I was
here.
going
That's
into
what I
heaven or
didn't
not.
have. And
See, I had
that's,
that.
to me, I don't know if I want to. I didn't have relationship.
That's right.
Okay? Now, whether that was the Catholic Church's fault or whether it was my fault,
It was church in general.
well, I don't think, maybe I wasn't postured to receive it. That's very possible.
That could be.
Okay? But I think something that the church misses, the Catholic Church in particular, is relationship versus ritual.
Yes.
And then what ends up happening is you go check a box.
Frank said that because, you know, he was in the Catholic Church and now we're not. And he says, but I will tell you, we went to a Catholic church in St. Louis that was absolutely stunning and the message was amazing. But he said it was all the ritual. He's like, you know, also some of that ritual is what saved him. Like just doing the ritual. And now he has that relationship with Jesus. Frank's just like a different character in the sense of like, I don't know that he's ever done anything
Well, he's a little
bad in his life.
OCD. I mean, he's like not OCD. I would assume. I don't even know.
He's just a
Frank.
But the
good
new
person.
priest,
But is he a little? He's organized. So
Yeah.
people that are organized, they're going to meet Jesus in that ritual because they're wired to find him in the organization. Those of us that are a little more creative, we're going to find Jesus
Right.
in nature and in the worship because that's the way we're wired. We
But-
got something for everyone.
you know, the new priests now, because Father Mark he's at St. Therese, Father Mark Famuliner. And I did a podcast with him.
Yeah, I
And
saw that one.
He was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a story that needs to be heard. But he talks about relationship. He talks about God calling you, Jesus calling you to a relationship with him. You know, and so you hear it more, I think, out of the newer priests.
Yes.
That they're.
That's why I said it's the church at the time, and I think it's the church today because we hear it more in Protestant churches now too. I think too that I think it just was us trying to figure it out too. I mean, you see it. I mean, if you were to get really deep on this, if you even look at psychology and the things that we've learned from the generations where we talk about these generations that just didn't talk about their emotions, they didn't deal with the trauma. They turned into alcoholics, they turned into drug addicts, and now we're starting to get to the roots of things. It's the same thing with religion or Christianity, I think. We made it all about the rules and the legalism in general. We scared people straight into heaven because of hell. And now we're going, oh, we could have just led to a personal relationship with Jesus. He would have met that love need, and he would have healed all the traumas. You know what I mean? It's kind of seems like that's where the world is going.
No matter how good a parents you have, I had great parents.
Well, I
you
mean,
had
I
good
agree.
parents.
We
You had
did,
good parents.
yeah.
There's gaps, right?
We all
I
have an
feel like-
enemy.
I
That's what it
feel
There's
is.
like-
outside influences.
Well,
We all have an enemy on the same mission to steal, kill, and destroy. So
Yes.
even in the best homes, he's going to take anything he can.
He wants the best homes. I always tell people if the enemy is not knocking at your door, you're doing something wrong.
right.
We did just talk about that.
Well,
I want to be
Truth.
ineffective for a while. I'm not going to lie.
I know
Listen,
sometimes it is nice.
I get it, but you have to align yourself. You have to align your wife, your kids, with God and Jesus, and then He can fill those gaps. Because, like here, I really try to be a great dad. I try to be very close with my kids. I will leave gaps.
Yes.
I will 100% leave gaps. I will 100% say something that they hear differently.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm hearing it now. I have adult children now. Oh, how do you have adult children yet?
Well, Ross Joseph's my step. Let's see. I've been around Ross Joseph since he was 11. Nina was 9. Ross Joseph's 27. So they're what, 18? Was that 16 years?
Yeah. So
Okay.
you start to hear the adult, and you're like, really?
Yeah, and
You've
I'm
held on to
sure-
that forever?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I'm so
and
sorry.
honestly, it wasn't until my nephew, who he was when he went through a phase in his life, and my sister's a single mom, and I'm like, here,
Sure.
let me just have him for a little bit. And
I
when
love
Ross
that.
Joseph
Good
and
for you.
Nina seen how I treated my nephew, that's when Ross Joseph and Nina became more receptive to me, because I think they felt that I was an asshole to just them. Because here,
You were an equal opportunity asshole.
right, and then they
That's how my husband
Do you feel
is.
like you were like that to them, though?
No, I don't.
Oh, you
I
just-
don't.
you just
any
think, oh,
they're gonna-
decision
they're
I
gonna
ever
perceive
made
it.
with Ross Joseph and Nina was very carefully thought out, and I would ask myself, what would I do if they were mine biologically? And that's how I would handle the
Yeah.
situation.
You and my husband could have a great conversation. He was a stepdad too, and he did it. He
That's
took it
what I would
seriously.
ask myself.
Yeah.
What would I do if I was if this was my own biological? A lot of times the answer to that was I would beat the shit out of him, which I can't do.
Can't do that.
Okay, so then what's the next thing I would do? and then when Ross Joseph and Nina seen, well, wait a second, he treats
doing
his
him.
own nephew just as miserably. And I say miserably, but I was on him.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
on him, and now Ross Joseph sees how I treat
Your kid.
my biological kids, and he's even more receptive, and he and I are even closer, because initially I think they thought, well, he's just treating us like the stepkids.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right? And,
Yeah.
and,
And did you guys have one together at all?
me and Michelle, we have 3 together.
You have 3 together, so you had the 2-step. And so as the biological ones kind of came in too, there's always this comparison of like,
Well,
gonna be the
because
same.
here you got a Gianna who's a little baby, and you grab her and you hug her and kiss her, and
Yeah.
then you're hollering at your teenager,
Right.
for whatever they did,
Oh.
right?
yeah, that's
And
what
so-
it was in our house
and-
too.
and
yeah.
so-
so there's this like,
So there was
is
this
it
like,
equal? Yeah.
and then Giorgio moved in for, I don't know, it might have been a year, and they saw what an asshole I was
Can
to
I
him.
have Antonia move in for a year to your house?
Yeah,
So
right.
then that
Okay,
way.
she's a teenager now, right?
No,
How old is
she's
she?
10. But let me
10.
tell you, there are times that she's like, you
you
work
just
all the
wait.
time. You don't care about me. And I'm like, here, let me go pull out your 6,000 stuffed animals that you have, and I will give them to a kid that does think that I care about them.
Yeah, right. My 16-year-old just had this conversation with Dirk and I the other day, and Dirk's like, he's trying to pull this thing. You guys don't even parent me anymore. You don't
Yeah.
even care. Dirk's like, how much do you really want us to care? You give us a list of the things you'd like us to be in your business about.
Yeah,
Because we
I'll be in your
we called
business.
you into a manhood at 13.
Yeah.
We're treating you like a man, and you're acting like one. But this week you want to say that we don't care? I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but being a step
You're going to
parent-
screw them up at some point, but
Yeah.
we do the best we can.
Well, yeah, and being a step parent is harder than being a parent.
Right.
It's
It's
very
got to be.
difficult.
And it's
you know?
hard to be the mom of the ones that they all came out of you, and you're like,
And
I
then at
want
the
it to
same
be
time,
equal.
some of the things that you would say no to your
Yeah.
biological kids, you say yes to your step
Yeah.
kids.
because you're trying to.
I've done that before too, and then finally I'm like, Michelle, you got to deal with this, because I'm not telling him no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
deal with this. If he says, hey, I need money, okay, Michelle, you got to deal with this, or else I'm just
not
giving
going
it
to be
to
the
him.
bad guy every time.
And then his
Yeah.
dad goes, no, you can't do it, Frank. You can't give it to him, Frank.
Yeah.
And-
Okay, so did you guys co-parent well with the?
Oh, his dad's great.
Yeah.
His
good.
his dad was highly involved in their lives.
That's awesome.
Fun fact, I met their dad
Yeah.
at like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just never had met him before. And he said his name, and I was like, and I put the connection together. And it was at the barber shop. My husband was getting his hair cut.
Okay.
And we didn't have time to run me home, so I
Mm-hmm.
went. And I don't like going to barber shops, and I had to go to the bathroom, so I ran in, and I was like, I'm leaving. I am not staying here. Because, it's guys.
Yeah.
Guys hanging out. But he was there. And but yeah, he's a good guy.
I like, there was times where I'm like, he needs to get beat. You need to do it. I could call him, and then he would come over. He would come over. He would. I know.
He would come over. Oh,
Hell yeah.
wow.
He lived 2 minutes away.
Yeah.
And so I could pick the phone and be like, hey, this one's on you.
Yeah.
This needs more than a verbal talk, and you're going to need to you're going to need to maybe put your hand around his throat and scare the shit out of him, you know.
So you were that parent?
And he would come over and he
Were
would
you
do
really that kind of parent?
100%.
You were? Okay.
Yeah, I do it with my own kids.
It's old school Italian.
Oh, no, I'll
I
smack
know,
the
but
shit
I'm
out of my
telling
kids.
you. And then we wonder, anyway, I have opinions, but I won't share them.
Okay, so
So-
let's go to your ministry.
Let's do that.
Well, wait, when did you stop smoking weed?
Well, when I took Oaks
Oaks
of
of
Righteousness,
Righteousness,
yeah.
then at that point,
You were done.
realize,
Well, I think it was just, honestly, what I learned in Oaks was so many things, but was that I needed to get my identity in Christ, right? And so really, I think, like you said, all the other stuff was just symptoms of a deeper root issue.
yeah.
And so that deeper root
addiction's a
issue,
symptom.
yeah, all of that's a symptom of a deeper root issue. And so what I got in Oaks was I learned how to get my identity in Christ. And so I did that for a year. And I got married 3 months later, got pregnant 24 hours later. My husband was very proud of that. And then I didn't do anything for 8 months. I was just sober and didn't church. Because the other addiction I had was serving in the church. Because again, all these addictions were all tied to, I will do anything for you. Please love me. I don't know if they taught about that in the Discover Freedom, but we're either trying to get love or we've given up on getting
Well,
love.
and the problem is, and something that I learned in Discover Freedom is, we live in this quid pro quo world, right? You do this and you'll
You get
get
this.
this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you work this hard, you'll make this amount of money. You produce this result, you'll get this amount of money. If you do this for the team, you'll get to play this position. And that's just the way the world works. And then we try to take that concept and apply it to the heavenly concept of grace. And then what we're trying to do is earn it.
So,
right?
But
so
the
this is how
problem with it is this. Let's go back to biblical times.
Well, yeah.
What did Jesus do to Sodom and Gomorrah? He destroyed the city.
But do you know why he did that? Because of love, right?
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Everyone thinks, in my opinion, people put Jesus on this. Okay, so I have a friend. Her name's Angie. I won't throw her last name out there. And she makes fun of me because one of my favorite songs when I first got really into church was I Am a Friend of God. Do you like that song?
Sing it to me.
Oh, absolutely not.
I was just gonna see
Anyways,
how far
it's
I
like
could
I am
get
a
up.
friend of God is the concept.
I love the song because Jesus is my friend.
He's
told
not
me-
your friend.
He is my friend.
He
I
is
heard you
not
say
your
that
friend.
yesterday. You were so off.
I am not
You
off.
break my heart in that.
Jesus is like a parent to me. This is what I think of. Jesus is like a parent.
Are you not
You
a friend
love-
with your kid though?
I am, but I am
Yeah.
going to discipline them too
Of
in
course.
love.
So does
That's
your
my point.
friends. Your friends
So
discipline
do your
you
two
in love.
friends.
No, they
That
do.
is 100%.
A good friend will.
A good friend.
I give my friends permission to.
I need
No.
new friends because my friends don't discipline me, and they didn't
No.
when I was drinking. But my point is I look at
But
Jesus
that's
as a
'cause you
parent.
love them so much.
A parent that's going to discipline me and love me
It's-
and be my friend
But
too.
he can't be angry and love separate of each other, right?
Right.
He
That's
can
why
only.
I say as a parent, because your friends can judge you, and Jesus isn't going to do all of that.
He is 100% judging your heart and the intentions of your heart.
He does.
in
He
light
has
of
to
his
judge him.
life.
That's the trick that the devil, that's the catch-22, is that the devil knows he has to judge, which is why the devil points out all your shit.
Right.
So here
For
and
Jesus to fix it.
Can I summarize it? This is my way I explain it as far as what I was thinking of, as far as that quid pro quo. I'm going to say that one 10 times. So God is love.
Yes.
The enemy has one mission: to make us believe that love's been taken away, because it's never been taken away. There's nothing that can separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus. Once you put your faith in him, you actually have it inside of you.
Forever.
Forever. Nothing can do that. So the enemy has to convince us. So from the very beginning, you come out of the womb, immediately you look to your parents, who they're going to represent God's love to you. There's the father heart of God and the mother heart of God. We're all made in his image. You cannot have the complete heart of God in a home if you don't have both the mother heart and father heart of God, because we're all created and that completes the whole totality. But only God's love is what we're created for. And if our parents are good and they point us to go, we love you, but our love for you, our protection for you is never going to be enough, and we're actually going to screw you up a little bit. So
Right.
look here to get that fullness. Look
Right.
here for that love. That's our role. But not all parents know to do that. So the enemy comes in and takes love away. So then immediately we go into, because there's really, if you, any personality test that you do, there's like 4 personality types, right? Those 4 personality types, we're going to put them in light of our relationship with the Lord and how he created us. We're either looking for love or we've given up on love, and we're either passive or we're aggressive about it. So if we're looking for love on the aggressive side, we're aggressively looking for love. I will do anything. Please love me. That's your aggressive people pleasers, right? And they become codependent. Ding, 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 ding. That sent me to prison.
That was not me.
Yeah. You were more, you were probably, if I'm going to guess, you gave up on love and you judged everyone else and said, I'm better than you.
I didn't
Critical.
give shit either way.
I know. So I'll tell you where you land.
I wouldn't say I gave up on it, but I was very happy single. And if love came and I found it, great. And if it didn't, I didn't care.
So what
But
changed?
let me
what
finish.
changed? Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. You finally, and you met Jesus probably somewhere along the way. And
I
You
didn't
had
need him. I
Jesus.
always had him, but I turned back to him after Michelle and I were married.
because you experienced love, and then you went, oh wait, even her love, which is amazing, isn't going to make me whole.
Right.
Because there's only one love that does, but we don't know that until we know it. So in the meantime, we're either looking for love or not. So on the aggressive side, love me, I'll do anything. On the passive side, that's the passive side. Love me, I'll do anything. The aggressive side is I must perform perfectly to have value and worth. You may be
That's me.
that. I must perform perfectly to have value and worth. So I'm going to take control. I'm going to take it in my own hands.
Yes.
I'm going to get your love by doing it perfectly,
But
and you're going to go,
didn't
good
do that
job.
for anyone else, though. I did have that attitude with things that I did, but I didn't do it for anyone else.
But that's why I say I think you're still on the bottom. So the bottom half. So not on the bottom, but
I
so
know
the
what you're
top
saying.
half going, I want love, I want love,
Yeah.
I want love. I'm passively going to get it by giving myself away to you and you can love me back, but then I'm going to get resentful because you don't love me appropriately. Or
Mine's control.
I
The
must
aggressive and control.
I'm going to
Yeah.
perform perfectly because someone one day is going to, and most of us are hoping it's our dad, will say, you did great. I love
Yes.
you. And so on the other side, I've given up on it. The passive side goes, I can't do it. You don't love me. I barely love myself. I doubt God even loves me. I give up. And that leads to suicide because that's the enemy's mission, right? I give up on love, and it's depression, self-pity. You can't. The other side is more aggressive. I give up on it. I'm not lovable, but neither are you. And that's probably where you kind of landed. I don't give a shit if you love me or not because I may not be lovable, but I can tell you all the reasons you're not. That's where my husband was. He is now a counselor that can tell you all the reasons you think you're not lovable and help you get healed from it. But before, on the evil side, he could tear you down with it to make himself feel better. So we all fall under that, but that's all because we need to be getting our love source here. So if I can break the lies that keep me stuck in these passive-aggressive, lie-based personality traits and characteristics that don't look like Jesus, I can be set free from that immediately with the truth of who I am. So that's what Oaks did for me. I figured out who I was.
Yes.
And I didn't have to look for love in the wrong places, which was really through relationships. I didn't have to numb my pain. I didn't have to do any
probably
of
helped
that.
you discern who you were versus what you did.
Yeah, you break it away from it, right?
Yeah.
If I have to perform perfectly to have value and worth, I become what I do. What if I can't do it anymore? Well, I'm shit. Oh, that side, that aggressive side, leads to homicide. So both of them lead to death.
Oh, interesting.
Depression leads to suicide. You learned all this in Oaks, but you may have slept through the plumb line teachings because he's very
Well, what's
boring.
interesting about me going
This
to
is
Oaks,
all thrown
I
out.
was still drinking through Oaks.
I got high on my way there every day.
Oaks did not make me stop drinking.
Yeah, I know.
Oaks healed me from a lot of things.
I know,
But
and
it
that was my
didn't-
problem when I started a prison ministry.
Yeah.
And I thought everyone was going to get set free once they
No.
went through it. And then I was like, ladies, you're disappointing me.
No.
So here, let's
Oaks
get to
didn't do
this.
that. I needed Jesus. I needed Jesus to be like, hey, I've given you a lot of opportunities and you're not taking them. You're sitting in church every Sunday. Great. Check mark. You're going to Oaks.
But
Great.
I have a
check
kingdom
mark.
purpose for your life.
Yes. I mean, I was still drinking when I was going to Vineyard.
Same. I got high on the way there for the first 3 years until I took Oaks. But they knew that. I was telling the pastors.
Were
they're
you
like,
working there?
Not at that point.
Oh,
no.
okay.
I was teaching Sunday school. They did ask, children's church. They did. But I told them. So they were like,
That you smoke
"Just
weed?
Don't smoke it before you do Sunday school or children's
Oh.
church." But I mean, this was back in the day before they had as many policies in
Yeah.
place. They were
Okay.
more grace.
So let's, in the last part of this, talk about your ministry.
So
What's
started
it called?
Beauty for Ashes Ministry.
Beauty for Ashes. Okay.
Yep. Started a prison ministry. That vision God gave me 10 years prior. I saw a wing of the prison, or that we were going to be doing something there. Fast forward, took Oaks in 2008, 2009. I know I'm supposed to do a prison ministry. I told my husband we were going to do prison ministry. He said, good for you. I'm not. And then we took Oaks, and now I have the answer. And when it was time to start serving again, and I just was trying, I was like, I guess I'll go back to
And you were working at the
church.
church at that time?
No, I was still
When did you start working? Because I met you in like 2011.
I know. So in 2009, we started Beauty for Ashes because
Okay.
I met a guy. I took VLI because I felt like that was the next thing to do because I didn't know how to start a prison ministry. And I did an outreach for the homeless at Hope Faith. Through that, met a guy that worked for Interchange Freedom Initiative, which was a prison ministry started by Chuck Colson, who had gone through the Watergate scandal and had started a prison ministry through that. He had a program called Interchange Freedom Initiative. So through this divine appointment, I meet this guy named Andy in 2009. And I'm like, you get paid to work in a prison? I need to do that. That's what I'm supposed to do. And so he said, we have a wing of the prison. Everybody lives together. And he described that vision God had given me 10 years before. I about fell over. I'm like, and he said, it's in Lansing Correctional Facility, which is a men's prison nearby.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I've never been there. I didn't even know you could go into prison the right way. I didn't know how to go in the right way. Let's just say that. I knew how to get in the wrong way. But he said, oh, and we have a wing of a prison you've probably never heard of. It's in Vandalia, Missouri. And I was like,
Yeah, I know all
been
about
there,
it.
done that one. I've been dreaming about this wing. Tell me about it. I've been dreaming about it for 10 years. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're supposed to teach our class Oaks of Righteousness in your program. I just know this. And he's like, yeah, you can't teach your classes, but you can teach ours. So in 2009, Dirk got laid off in 2009, the day that we put together the first outreach for the homeless that led us to meeting Andy. He never went back to a corporate job. We knew God called us. His aunt passed away within weeks of that. He had an aunt who had no kids and left her life insurance policies to him and his brothers, who are now all in their 50s and 60s by the time she passes. Happens to pass the week that we decided to go into full-time ministry. That was enough for us to live off of for 2 years. So a year later, we start teaching Oaks of Righteousness over at Lansing Correctional Facility. I got to go to Vandalia and give my testimony, and if it was all about me, that was like, very emotional. Oh my gosh, talking about sense memory. I mean, you walk in a place and immediately miss home like nothing before, because that's how I felt when I was there. It was crazy. Anyway, but then in 2011, Chuck Colson's Prison Fellowship, Chuck Colson had passed by this point, but Prison Fellowship had announced they couldn't keep their programs going in Missouri, Kansas, and Arkansas, and they were shutting them down. By this point, Dirk and I had $500 left to our name, and both of us needed a paycheck. And the Lord said, I told you, you guys are going to be running that program in Vandalia. Go ask them if you can have it. So we went and asked them if we could have it. They said we were praying that someone would take it over. I said, how much does it cost? It came with staff members. $10,000 a month it was going to cost us. $10,000 a month. We had $500 in our names. And so we asked the Lord, is this you? And he said, go ask your board if they'll do it. The board said it's crazy enough to be God. We'll find out right away. And we took over in 2011, and it ran all the way until 2020. By 2019, we had expanded the program. It was now in Vandalia and in Chillicothe. We've had over 500 women go through it. It was a year-long program in a wing of the prison, and we added the inner healing piece to it. So we did the inner healing and discipleship. In 2019, we were in a meeting with a judge over in Lincoln County, which is near Vandalia, and the judge brought together probation and parole, and he brought together the churches and ministries in the area, and he said, probation and parole, what problems do you have keeping people out of prison? Why do I keep having the same people come in front of me? And they said, we don't have treatment programs. We don't have transportation for people. We don't have recovery programs. We don't have support. And he's Catholic. And he said, church, Jesus calls us to take care of this need. What are you guys going to do to meet the need of the state? Because we need to be working together, not apart. And I said, well, we have a program in the prison.
Were you in there at that time?
I was at the meeting, yeah. And I was like, oh, gosh. I said, we have a program that's changing lives, but you'd have to send them to prison to go there. And he said, if you take your program out of the prison and put it in the community, I'll send them there instead. So we went and found a property. We have so many God stories. Found the property. We were loading it, so we decided to shut the program down in Vandalia.
So real quick, now the judge has the option to say, instead of going to prison, they have to go to your program.
Yeah. And he calls with a lady on the stage and says, it's a Christ Center program. They're going to talk about Jesus. Are you willing to do it? And yeah.
Anything to get out of jail.
Yeah. And so in that case, they're mandated. And so if they leave, anyone can leave our program, but people don't. And so the program in the prison, the program in the recovery center, it basically is a grace-based environment where I take away the words, rules, law, all that, because Jesus came to fulfill that, but he wants to transform us by changing the way that we think. And what I believe and what I know is that when you put your faith in Jesus, you become the righteousness of Christ. You become the righteousness of Christ. You are. It's a belief problem that we have. If I don't believe I'm that, I'm not going to be that. And so we've got to identify all the lies that tell you anything contrary to that. Find where you've started to believe it. Deal with it through forgiveness. Find the lie. Break it in the name of Jesus. Replace it with truth.
It makes you want to go home and grab your kids.
Yes.
And say, you're blessed, you're called, you're healed, you're whole, you're saved,
you are the righteousness
you're everything.
Of Christ.
You're
Go
all
and
these
be.
different things. You know, you're this. I want you to, and they're going to take it tongue in cheek and be like, Dad, was something wrong?
But later,
Dad, are you dying?
Are you sick?
Later, when they're 30 something.
What's sad to me is the generation that I see, like even my daughter's age. I mean, they're so negative on themselves.
I know.
At 10, and I'm like, what?
Well, part of the problem is,
Even if you do pour into them.
part of the problem is they have access.
Yes. To your
This,
phone.
Lies.
this,
It's just a lie. feeding
this
the-
right here
It's awful.
is, and that's why Mike don't have them. Mine don't have them yet.
How old?
Gianna's 13. The twins will be 11.
Yeah, we didn't do it until 14, until the final one.
I
Who was the blood child. Of course, he got it at 12.
I won't do it until Gianna's in high school, and I'll give it to her solely so I can track her and I know
That's
where
why
she's
we
at.
did it.
Okay, so when she wants to talk to friends, what does she do?
Gianna doesn't really talk to friends, and if they do, then they talk to them through, like, if there's group text messages on Michelle's phone, and they send Michelle the text messages, then Michelle gets to read everything and sees what's going on.
It
you
is
know.
a little harder to be social.
It
My
is.
I
my
don't
older
care.
two, my
Here,
older
you know
two
where
are
she gets it
less
though?
social because we didn't give it to them. But
Gianna's, honestly, in my opinion, Gianna's a social butterfly.
really,
Oh,
yeah.
and I'll tell you something
Sports.
right now. Huh?
Sports.
Yeah, because you get them around kids.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
that's
a-
what you need to be around.
And
to be
I'll tell you
social.
right now, kids, like Gianna, we were on a cruise, and they have the kids club.
Yeah.
All the kids gravitate to Gianna.
She's me.
She's-
I'm the
sh-
gatherer of people.
And I mean, they all, and
We throw the
we
best
would
parties.
have kids on this cruise run up to Gianna and Gemma, and I'm like, who the hell's that? And they're like, oh, we met him in the kids club. Now Frankie, totally different, very introvert.
Yeah,
Ross Joseph,
But where's he get that from?
huh?
that's
Where's he
my
get that
oldest. is
from?
super
No idea.
introverted.
Frankie's very
Because you and your
shy,
wife are outgoing.
very shy, very introvert. Gemma, you'll never have to wonder what's on her mind.
Yeah.
Gianna, major extrovert. Ross Joseph was like Ferris Bueller when he was in high school. Okay,
I love it. Isn't
Nina,
it fun? They're all different.
Nina was more introvert. Frankie, more
We're
introvert.
introvert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other three, very, very outgoing.
I'm sorry to hear about Nina, and can I tell you that is why I do what I do. I have lost so many people to fentanyl over the years.
Yeah. Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
so many people. Like
big
it is
deal.
to be in the business. Obviously, I'm gonna have more, but when I tell you, so many in like one time.
Well, it's at the end of the day, you know, the part of the problem is we just can't control our southern border.
I know.
We just can't control it.
But we
That's
also
part of the
have
reason
an
why
enemy
you're
that's
having
on a
this-
mission to steal, kill, and destroy, and we have got to do more of what we're doing. Our next one, by the way, is going to come to Platte County, so I'm excited.
Your
about
next.
that. Recovery center.
So where's the recovery center now? I'm sorry. I
It's
missed
in no, it's okay. It's in Troy, Missouri. So it's near. So Vandalia is on the other side of the state. My parents now, I mean, because of our prison ministry and God's plan, they ended up becoming pastors of a church in Vandalia, which is 40 minutes from Troy. So Troy is really closer to St. Louis. I mean, it's probably 40 minutes from St. Louis.
So you're
but if
3
you
hours
know,
away.
3.5 hours. My life has been 3.5 hours away since 2011 when we took over that program in Vandalia. I've been driving I-70 a few times a month.
So who runs the program?
Now our director, sorry, my stomach is growling. I wonder if the mic picked that up. It was
Right
loud.
They can bleep it out. Mine's been growling too.
The whole time. I have a director now. Her name is Danielle, and she went through the program. So we have a director of that. We have a thrift store there called Beauty for Ashes Restore. Hillcrest here in Kansas City has taught us everything we know. I love them, and they've taught us everything we know. And we're starting a print shop. We have a print shop called Recovery in Print.
So do you do fundraisers for this?
I do, and I need lots of money. Actually, right now we're in a crisis financially, and we need about $75,000 right away. So
I like
You
how
wanna
you
spread
laugh
that
about
word?
it.
Well, because God is good and He's going to provide.
Here, I'll
but-
be honest. I've had this conversation with Chuck Kuda and my wife because, you know, me and Chuck have done, I don't know, 4 fundraisers together. We're in the middle of doing another one, and I'm like, guys, don't get all caught up in the little intricacies. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna
That's
get taken
always
care of.
my
And
answer.
every single time,
Why do we stress?
every single time, we raise more money than we did the previous year. Every single time. And then
Every
finally,
time.
Chuck sent the text and goes, you know what? We're going to raise $250,000 because that's just what we do. And you know
Come
what?
on.
We raised $250,000.
Wow.
Would you come speak that over my ministry? Lay some hands on it.
We raised $250,000. Now we netted 190, but we raised $250,000.
So here's a fun story, and I'm going to end it with this because this is how good God is, and this is what He's going to show up and do. We knew we were going to move into this building for the recovery center, right? We were supposed to sign the contract on March 21st, 2020. We were in the prison on March 18th, 2020, putting our last piece of tape on the box that was the program in the prison that's now going to be a recovery center if we buy this building, right? They came in and said the whole world's shutting down.
Right.
We'll come back in a couple weeks to get your stuff, which was funny because as I was putting that tape on, I was planning on putting this stuff in my dad's trailer because he lives right there in town. My dad's like, Gina, my trailer's not empty. What are you going to do with this? I'm like, oh, crap, I don't know. Well, they came in and said, leave. You can come back in 2 weeks. I'm like, good. I can figure out where I'm going to put the stuff. Well, the world didn't open up. It shut down. We signed that contract in faith, raised $60,000 during a pandemic, during a quarantine, so streams in a desert, closed on that building. We were buying it from the owners, and they were holding the mortgage for us.
Remember
Well,
that.
I did mortgages, and I used to do mortgages in the past. I know you have to have insurance on a building, but because we were doing seller financing, I forgot to get insurance on it. So I was going to push the closing out because I still had $10,000 to raise, and we had about a week until the closing, and we had a zoning thing that needed to be put in place. So I asked the seller, "Can you we're going to push the closing out because I think I need more time to get the $10,000." And she's like, "Gina, we need this money. If you close on time, I'll give you until September 1st. You can just get insurance in your name on September 1st instead of August 24th." I was like, "Shoot, I need insurance. You're right. Yeah, we'll close on time." So we close on August 24th. We do not go into the building on August 25th. We don't go in. August 26th, my director at the time, she calls and she said, "Gina, the place is destroyed. The place is destroyed." She's calling. I'm driving from Vandalia, 40 minutes up. I'm like, "What do you mean it's destroyed?" She's like, "It's completely flooded. This is our first time going in the building, and the ceiling, everything, the water's up to here, drywall, everything's destroyed."
And you don't have insurance.
We don't, in our name.
Oh.
Immediately, I was like, "The Lord just gave us a new building, Denise." I'm like, "This is the way the Lord works. This is on their insurance. They told me not to get insurance until September 1st. We got a $180,000 rehab on our building. We had no plan or penny on how we were going to rehab this building.
Wow.
They took everything down to the studs. That building would have caught on fire. The wiring was so bad. They required everything to be brought up to par.
Wow.
Only God. Do you know how it flooded? Do you know how it flooded? I had to act. I looked guilty. I was so excited. I had figured all this out. In the moment she said it, I was like, "We're getting a new building." A toilet on the 3rd floor. There was a little thing that goes into the tank that popped off and sprayed water for 24 hours.
Wow.
That destroyed that building.
So how do you guys raise money?
You trust the Lord. You do a better job probably than I have, but galas. We've only had one gala in 12 years. We raised $60,000 at it. Dayton Morse
You should
spoke
have
at
a
it.
gala yearly.
I
Yeah,
know.
why
I
don't
tried to
you?
have one this year. And this board that I am currently working with was like, "No, you need to raise money. We can't have a gala." I'm like, "This is how we raise money." It's a long story. It's just stupid.
Here, I'll be honest. Like, I don't have any of those issues.
I didn't for 12 years.
Yeah, I don't have any. Of
I
those
have
issues.
had
I'm
a
just like,
great life when it
Yeah.
came to this ministry until the last year and a half. And I think it's because what we do works, and it's because we're about to expand it, and the enemy would rather shut down what we're doing than have me do 2 of them.
Yeah.
And it has been that's why I tell you that when people tell me they want to go into full-time ministry, I just want to apologize to them. Go, "I'm so sorry that God called you to this because it sucks."
The thing is
It
like
sucks.
Hillcrest, they do a gala every year. And so, I mean,
It
you
is.
have to fundraise somehow.
I know. I made mistakes along the way. Putting my board together for one, obviously, is the biggest mistake. my board fell apart. I didn't get it rebuilt appropriately and quickly enough. So then when it fell apart, at that point, I'm overwhelmed by having to let this director go. Now I'm having to run a program that's 3.5 hours away because I had to move out to Troy when I let my director go last year. And it was in the midst of that I like, and I have to raise the mortgage, and we're getting behind on our lease for our thrift store. It was a mess. And that's when this gal who's wanting to fix everything for me says, my mom died.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a life insurance policy. And in her mind, she literally was thinking, I mean, just in her brokenness, because she wanted my approval, you know, she was like, I'm going to go find $100,000 and then I'll let her know, hey, that wasn't true, but I'll get this. She also offered a couple cows that she was donating for us to raffle off. Well, she didn't actually have cattle, and I didn't know that. And so, and it was a long story, but, and when I tell you, all brokenness comes down to wanting value and worth.
Yeah.
And so I get the root of it for her. And I'd rather have that than a pharisaical Christian telling me this is the law.
Right.
And you are not worthy. I mean, her biggest complaints, honestly, the first complaints I got that deemed me unqualified for ministry was because I used the F word and I like to vape nicotine.
So what can we do for you?
Pray. Cover me in prayer.
You guys need to be constantly raising money.
I'm constantly raising money because I've raised over $1 million over the last few years. I mean, since we started the ministry, that's my job, but I don't have anyone helping me on that. And I haven't done it right. So it's not all their fault. It's everyone's fault.
You and your husband also still have to live.
Right. And so, and I was on staff at Vineyard. So I made sure I never got paid through Booty for Ashes because I don't want to raise my own money, but I have staff members, you know, I had 7 staff members that I had to raise their salaries. And so, that's what I do. So anyway, in the midst of all this, whenever this other gal when I let the director go last year, she got mad. I came across, let me tell you that I know God's behind this. So the gal gaslit me, right? So I find out on the last day of the year, money isn't coming because we track this money. She had she was good. We're going to write a book somehow, how she did this. My husband ministered to her husband. She wasn't married. Her husband for hours about his drug addiction because he had gotten a hold of the money, got into their personal account, and he wasn't releasing it because they were separated. It was her the whole time. And so it was her the whole time. So it was a big gaslight. She lived in our basement. So anyway, come January 6th, I find out on the last day of the year that she has gaslit us. She has no money, that there's no money coming, that I'm screwed, that she screwed me over. She was supposed to be pregnant. I mean, there's a lot to her story. Very good at what she did. She went to prison for embezzlement. So that's the other little key problem, is that people have the problem with the fact that she went to prison for embezzlement.
It's all right.
But she wasn't trying to get money from me. And I'm telling you, when you run a ministry and you get lives transformed, you want the person that went to prison for embezzlement on your team because she is freaking wicked smart.
Well,
so is she still on your team?
Yeah, she's on my team.
But
She's
you
one
don't
of
have
my
to put her in
girls.
charge of any money.
I'm not putting her in charge of any money, and I never did. And
So
people
what-
won't hear me on that. They won't hear me.
So
her
what-
motivation. But
you
do you know
need-
what? So we needed $75,000 on January 5th.
Last year.
I was going to lose the terms on our loan come that Monday. I called the bank. I finally went to. I had been working with the bank because we were 3 months behind on our mortgage payment for an annual payment. We were about to go on the what was called the watch list because we're 90 days out. On Tuesday, we're going on the watch list. So I met with the bank, and he said, if you can pay your mortgage on Monday, everything's fine. But if you go past Monday, we're going to have to renegotiate the terms and go to a monthly payment at a 7-point-something interest rate. And we have a 4-point. I'm like, we'll lose the building. And I was $30,000 behind on our lease. I didn't know what to do. It was my birthday the next day. I've spent a week under the covers crying, and there's a lot of PTSD that comes mentally. I went through a mental breakdown.
I don't know
after
that I
this.
could do all this.
And
I'm
so
proud of you.
In the midst of that, Bethany, the gal that did this to me, I was very public, but she had said, Gina, I was like, why did you do this? Why did you hate me? And like, why? I just could not wrap my mind around the why. And she's like, I'm just going to go online and publicly confess.
I saw your video.
That's the video. Okay, so that video, I didn't know. She said, just go make a video of something. I'm like, I'm so fucking embarrassed. I was so embarrassed because of being snowed like that. And so I was like, I don't know what to do, but we're going to lose this. So I decided.
How would you know that she's doing that?
I didn't.
When she comes to you and says, hey, you're in trouble, I can help. right? How are you supposed to know that
I had no idea.
she's
I know.
BSing you?
I know.
In your mind, you're thinking, hey, God's always taking care of me. Here he is again.
Every time it looks the same,
And
and
it
it's
looks the
another
same.
amazing thing.
Yeah.
And so I go. But speak of amazing, so I go on. No one watches my. Do you know how many videos I've made trying to raise money? No one watches my videos.
Oh my gosh, everyone watched it.
It got shared 250 times, watched 36,000 times. I don't even remember the
It was
numbers.
crazy.
We raised $75,000 in one weekend. I went away and hid myself because I couldn't handle. I mean, it was my birthday. My friend was taking me away. I was like, I can't get on my phone. I came back and I turned my phone on, and the text messages that were coming through were overwhelming. I go and look on our Aware 3, and I'm like, $5.10, $25, $10, $50. I mean, like, doop, doop, just. We paid that mortgage that Monday.
So, okay, I have
up.
something to tell you. This is like a totally off the wall, but you need to hear this. And you can put this on there.
You can put all that on there too.
I made a reel. It's my husband went to a fire, left me at the fire station, and it's a joke that he's like, oh, I have to go to the fire station. I'm away from my family. So I made this reel, and it's of his fire station bedroom, how nice it is, his office, his bedroom, the bathroom. It had like 13,000 views.
Isn't it funny to think people like?
You need to do that with the people that are in your ministry. You need to show them
I know.
the thrift store. You need to show them working.
And we're finally kind of getting it.
You
we're
need
finally
someone that
getting
does
it.
your social media.
We're finally and this is what I want.
I have a friend that can help you with that.
I need help, and I have a gal that's kind of helping us now. But this is this is always
I
our
have no idea
vision.
how to do it.
So we have 15 women that live in our program. We have a residential program, 15 women. I want to train them. So I need someone who can come train them, and then they now have a skill.
I can come train them.
And we're going to do our next one here. And we have an opportunity for a print company that we might be able to purchase. So
But there
I know
needs to
God has
be-
a plan, but I have got to make this plan work.
You need a social media for that building. Do you have one?
Sort of. I mean,
No, the answer to
No.
that is no then.
I don't have
not.
a
You don't
no.
have
You need to
one.
have a social
I
media.
don't.
And
You
then,
don't.
No, I don't.
You don't
I
have
a
one.
volunteer that's trying to learn. That's why I say sort of.
Can I
We're
come
so
help you?
grassroots. I would love it if you would
I will
help me.
come
Do you
help
know how
you.
many people say that though, and then they don't?
Listen, I will do it. And I put it out for everyone to hear so they know. I will come teach. I don't want to do it, but I'll come teach. And this is why I'm great at social media, because I get a lot of business off social media. And if you do it right, people, the views, the sponsorships, having people sponsor you, having people donate to you, but you have a main social media, and then all 15 of those girls need to have their own social media, and they all need to be making reels and tagging your social media, and then that just explodes.
Yeah.
And that's how you're going to raise money.
I know.
Because
I
13,000
literally need
people
someone to teach me and to hold me
watching
accountable.
A
Because here's the
Facebook thing of
I wear social media hat. I wear accounting hat.
No.
I wear the director hat.
No.
Sometimes I go out and do ministry hat. I can't do it all, and I need help.
no.
And I don't have enough money to hire people yet.
I'll do it for free. I will come do it. I will tell. I mean, I'm going out of town, but when I get back in town,
Okay,
tell
let's get
me.
together.
I will come. I'll bring everyone together. Bring their
You're
phones.
gonna go out there. Well, they aren't allowed to have phones. Let's see.
Can I have a computer?
We'll have a plan. We'll put that. Yeah, we have a plan. Yeah, if you'll come out and do a training for us with
Yeah.
our ladies, that'd be super fun.
I will, and I'm going to tell you.
You
it's
could
like,
actually probably Zoom and do
You
it.
could, but it would be way more fun to take.
You
her in
want them to
person.
see it.
All right.
But actually, there is something too. If everyone is on Zoom and can do the share screen, and
Oh yeah, I don't know that I know how to do that.
I
But
it's
I'll
easy.
come.
that.
I'll come out.
It's easy.
I'll come out and teach them. And
I could do that, and I'm an idiot.
And this is the thing. It's the smallest things, right? The smallest things, they might make you 10,000, and then those make you, and then it grows.
Yeah, because we had a social media thing going for our store. This just shows you the kind of thing I've been against. The gal that we had to let go last year, the director who I still love and still want healing and restoration with.
This is the one that.
She was our director. We started the ministry, or we started the
Oh, not the
recovery center.
cowgirl.
No.
Okay.
But she knew that it's all interwoven, right? So the gal that I had to let go last year had worked for us in the prison. She was the director of our program in the prison when Bethany had gone through it. So they knew each other. Anyway, but Denise was pretty sure Bethany was the reason I let Denise go. That had nothing to do with it. It was time.
Okay.
So she starts making up stories against us. And there was a point I was going to make about she had a family member that was over our social media stuff for the store.
Yeah.
And when I let the director go, within a week, I didn't even think about it, but her family members, our person for our social media, she deleted and got rid of our entire Facebook page. That's the type of stuff I've been up against.
Well, and this
last
is the thing.
year.
You need to have someone, this is my opinion, you don't need to pay him. I mean, it's volunteer. This is a volunteer position. I'll come out, I'll teach them, and then you can be there too, so I can teach you in case when those girls graduate, you can teach the new girls.
Yeah,
But-
I want it in writing. I want to develop
Yes.
something so that the next person,
Yes.
we teach one, train one, do
Yes.
one, whatever
And
they
guess
say.
what? It might teach them a job. Because
that's
how
the
many
whole
jobs
point.
can you have on social media?
That's
a
whole,
lot.
A whole point. Everything about our program. So we run a thrift store. We have one employee. We have 15 ladies that all get to use their gifts and abilities to however they're made.
And if they're in marketing, you know how many online marketing
Right.
jobs you can have?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
I'm going to help you with social media. We're going to get that going so that you can raise money on a continual basis.
I know.
Because
Let's do it.
You don't
It
want to
needs-
be in a spot.
You
and
don't
I'm
wanna
so
be-
tired
It's
of being
miserable.
in this.
No.
You want to
It's
be cash
miserable.
heavy.
And
Yeah.
we were cash heavy that year. The year that we did. What
I don't know what it
happened was
cost you a month to run it.
She just said 10,000.
no. Right now our
Oh.
budget is $30,000 a month,
So then you need about 100,000 in your operating account.
which would be awesome. Which that is the problem. That's the decision to make. We have a building that has $200,000 in equity. So do we pull money out? Do we shut down what we do there? Bring it here? I don't want to do that. It's making.
We'll
a
talk
difference for
about
Troy,
that.
too.
Because you know that, I mean, that's how you buy and sell. Is you take the equity out to buy new, and then you pay them down. I mean, there's people out there that they're like, I'll be in debt up to my eyeballs. I don't care. I don't like to have a car payment. So there's that.
We
But-
don't have a ton of debt, but we do have, and we have these things that are due right now.
and then
So,
doing
decisions have to be
and
made.
then doing the galas.
Yes, the galas.
Doing those.
That's what happened. So we had the really good one with Dayton Moore, raised
Yeah.
60,000. Had a great year. Went to do the next one out there, and the
Yeah.
director that was working for us sabotaged it because she did not
Yeah.
want us taking over. She felt like we were taking over her thing, even though she worked for us. And we only made 5,000 that year. So
No,
I have
you
been
need to do
behind
a
the eight
gala
ball
in
since then.
Kansas City at a nice hotel.
Yeah, we
and
did it
raise
down at the Royal Stadium.
250, 300,000.
Well,
Yeah.
I need help.
We got you.
I've never done that before.
Let's
You-
do
I
it.
don't even
Yeah.
know where to start.
You can do it.
Yeah, let's do
I
it.
mean, I
You
kind of know
start
where
by
to start.
picking a
but-
date and talking to the venue, and that's
I
what you
know how to start, but I need. How do we get 250,000? Well, you guys are gonna help me.
You,
Yeah.
you,
It's gonna be fun.
You just
Advertise.
go to that, and you just go to people and say, "This is what we do." You know,
I know. You would think
There's
it's a-
entities.
You have
I'm
to
not
be
going to
ready
throw
to
it.
get
I
told
don't know.
no.
I've been doing this all this whole time. It's just a matter of the time, having the time, and needing extra
And the people.
I
And
the
you need to
extra
find people that are in business that need a write off.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you
that's
gotta charge-
huge.
You have to say, "Here, we're going to sell each table. We're going to sell it for $2,500. You could be a bar sponsor. We'll sell that for $5,000. You could be a food sponsor. We'll sell that for $10,000. You could be a presenting sponsor. We'll sell that for $20,000.
And so you do the gala for your main thing, and then you do a golf tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you do those two every year, you're
that's all
covered.
Yeah,
That's
you
all
can
you
do
need.
A gala, a golf tournament, poker tournaments are easy.
Yeah.
See,
we
this
had a
is
guy
where I need
last year
help.
buy
This
a
is where I need help.
$5,000. We auctioned off a $5,000 ticket to the final table. The guy paid $5,000, didn't even go play.
I know.
Seriously?
I need
Yes,
five
he
of those
paid
people
$5,000.
right
There was a
now.
live auction. Everybody cared. I'm thinking, how high is this thing gonna go? $5,000 sold for. He didn't even play. He wrote the check for $5,000 and left.
I need 5 of those people right now.
Yeah, we had one guy
Or
say, "Hey,
more than
listen, don't make the
10 of
presenting
those people.
sponsor 10,000. Make it 20,000, and I'll do it." That I swear to you.
No, that's
But,
there's money to be.
and honestly,
made.
it's not that they're throwing money around. It's probably that they need a tax write off.
Well, and so the difficult part for me has been the spacing and it was difficult for the first 10 years because it was prison. People did not want to give money to help people in prison, let me tell you that. But now that it's recovery, it's
Yeah.
a whole different thing. Everyone wants to give money to that, but they want it for their own backyard.
Yeah.
So because we've been in Troy,
yeah.
I'm here, that's there.
Yeah.
But now our next one's going to be here, but we still got to save it because it's all the kingdom. It doesn't matter where it's at.
Yeah.
And actually, the people that are there, we have 2 Platte County folks that are there, and sometimes it's better to get
Yeah.
out of town for treatment anyway. So,
Yeah.
Well,
all that to say,
Okay,
that's where we're at.
so we'll do that. Mm-hmm. We'll put your. Do you have a website?
Yes, it's bfa-ministry.org.
Beauty for
BFA
Ashes
yeah.
Yeah,
dash ministry.
They
bfa-ministry.org.
could put that on the
Yeah.
podcast right underneath it.
100%.
And that, this way people can contact you if need be.
Yeah, that'll be great. Sorry, I'm a talker.
No,
it's
thanks
okay.
for coming
Well,
on.
here,
I appreciate
honestly,
it.
Most of these go a couple hours.
Okay, cool. I figured it would.
Most of them go a couple hours because we travel down rabbit holes, as you see. If we
I know.
stayed on
Me
point,
too.
we could probably do it in an hour and 15 minutes. But
I travel rabbit holes in my daily life. That's why I think I'd be great at a podcast because.
And then I'm always the one that like I want to do things in chronological order, right? Like as they happened, like tell the story. My brother Andrew likes to go off it.
This is the worst I've ever done telling that story. We started at the end. We went. I was like, we did not tell the story, but we didn't have the notes. We just went.
Oh, I think that's the best part about a podcast is not knowing where you're gonna go.
It's fun.
So,
I loved it.
Okay, so thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
You can see the timing was good. That's why I was like, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna try. Damn it! It's been the longest freaking year of my life. And
I wonder if there's a way that isn't there a link maybe that you have out there that people can click and donate?
Yeah, it's on our website. I mean,
perfect.
Yes.
So
yeah.
okay.
If you click the donate button right there, it'll take you right to the portal.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brighton Nutrition sponsored our podcast today. They gave us teas.
This was really good. They have like some type of almond or something in this it's like a nut.
That was
the
banana nut loaf. I remembered it.
Yeah.
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 So
and
he
I
tells me,
really good.
just get me something and add protein. Okay.
I'm pretty sure this is sugar free.
This is the cherry
Super sweet. When you first
bomb,
sip into
I
it
think.
until you mix
So,
No,
anyways.
but I like the nut in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like the chunks of
So
it.
they have punch cards now. You go
This is the place right by Subway, isn't it?
Yes, it's where your wife
Right on
goes.
North Brighton.
Michelle goes
On
all the
North
time.
Brighton.
Yeah. And so you get 10
And they got a med
punches,
spa
11
next
one
to it.
you get free or something like that. I can't remember
Is
the
it
whole
Herbalife?
thing.
Are all these things Herbalife?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The nutrition stores.
I think this is the same place that
Yes.
did a fundraiser
For Nina. It is. That's why I went
Did
there.
you start
Right?
that?
No. But Michelle went there all the time and I would see her. And then Lauren said, I have to do something. And so she did the Nina's tea and hired it. So then when I said, I'm doing this, I told her I was like, he's married to Michelle. And so she said, yeah, I'll sponsor it. So she just said, hey, they have, you can check in to get promos on their website. But yeah, it's at 152 and Brighton. She does amazing things.
They're very good people.
They're very good people.
Yeah, they really are.
Very good people. They just had a thing and my husband went and took the fire truck and they give back to the community. They're just great people. When his daughter passed.
They raised a lot of money for us that time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're
That
good
has been
people.
good.
I
Just
think
try to
it
help
was
people.
last year's poker tournament is when they did it.
Huh.
And then they gave all the money to Nina's Wings. Yeah, it was a good
Yeah.
deal.
That's awesome.
Because we have two 501c3s. We have
You do. That's why I was hearing you say that.
Nina's
Okay.
Wings and Andrew Ross Termini Foundation.
And what?
Andrew Ross Termini Foundation.
So did you know that Andrew's what is it?
Andrew
50
Ross Termini?
Yes. So his I adopted a boy one year at Christmas. I don't know if this will be on there, but this is a cool story. I adopted a little boy at Christmas for our neighborhood because I was in charge of our neighborhood HOA funds and we had extra money. And if you don't use it, you lose it. Back then, our neighborhood's since taken over. But anyways, long and short, I adopted this little boy because he had cancer. And it ended up, small world, being like my sister-in-law's great nephew, which I didn't know at the time. But anyways, so we adopted him. Your wife shows up. We give him presents. He's at the hospital. My husband and his firemen go to the go to the hospital, deliver the presents. Your wife shows up with a check for $10,000 for them.
Wow.
Yeah. Life-changing. But this is what's crazy. This little boy has had cancer 3 other times.
This has to be.
His name's Matthew.
Yep. I remember it. Yep.
And he's still,
So you guys run foundations where you get to sow into other people's world.
So our foundation.
But he's doing great is the point of the story.
Yeah, Andrew Ross Termini Foundation donates to kids. They don't have to just have cancer; they could just be sick. Like last year, Ella, she has Batten's disease, and it's a fatal diagnosis.
Yeah.
But there's medicine that can help prolong her life, and it's super expensive. So, and then Nina's Wings, we're really still trying to figure out how we're going to do Nina's Wings, but we want to create something where it's really kind of similar to what you're doing.
I was going to say, it sounds
that
like you have
when
the same
people leave rehab, they can go to this before they're injected back into the community.
So reentry. I mean, it's sober
It
living
helps
housing
it.
type.
So that's really what we're trying to do. We don't know what it looks like
Yeah,
yet.
I
That's
think
what
the
Denise
next
is
person
gonna
is
do.
who you need to talk to about that.
Who?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say
Rob.
that's what Denise.
Oh
is
yeah,
going
but there
to
you
do.
go.
Yeah.
So
Because
that
he
may
does
be-
Oxford houses.
So there you go. That could be exactly what we need to do.
It's going to be similar to like a Hope is Alive
Yeah.
or Healing House, Oxford houses. I mean, you're talking about.
And I also need to get
The
my
extra
wife in front of
support.
Michelle Newton, who runs the restoration house off Independence Avenue.
Yes,
Yeah.
that too.
You know,
That's
so,
yeah.
Anyway.
Yep. We
All
know
right.
all those same peoples. I want to
Yeah.
meet your wife too, because it definitely.
She's definitely my better half. Anyway.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me.
Thank
Thanks
you
for this
so
opportunity.
much.
So much. Thank you.
Yeah.